Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to hop in to inform our host that he's on mute, and then I'll hop out again, imminently. Brown, if you can hear me, which I hope you can, unmute yourself, my friend. Well, hello, chat. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. I don't know what's happening with Brown. I'm assuming something's gone catastrophically wrong on his end, so, yeah. Shall I just do this? I'm going to do this. I don't have a script for this either, so, in the absence of Mr. Brown, who's now just disappeared entirely, let's start bringing people on. Welcome to the show. We're discussing various things today. Who have we got coming up first? Something in a script about a golden reach-around droid of choice, I think is how it goes. So we'll say hello to Z3PO. How are you, my friend?
Oh, good evening, Mr. Platoon. It looks like Mr. Brown has completely boomered the entire start of the show.
Yeah. This is an interesting starting point, isn't it?
It's like being on Friday Night Tights.
It is a little bit. I'm guessing he can just cut this all out of the re-upload, can't he? So that'll be fine. I'm sure.
I think it's far funnier to keep it all in.
It looks so much more professional when you watch it back. How are you anyway, my friend?
I'm very well. Looking forward to going through this week's musings. And I think we should get another guest on and fill up the room before he gets back.
We can all say really mean things about him until he gets it. Right, who's next up? Next up, I don't remember Problem being script, but it is Problem being. How are you?
Hello, I'm going to go on mute in solidarity.
Oh dear.
Good-o, in which case I'm assuming he's well. Next up, we have... it's the queen of this channel, Rennie. Hello, how are you?
Hey, Ben, how are you?
All good. Slightly peculiar start to this one. Wasn't expecting to find myself in this position at all, but here we are. We make do.
You're doing well.
Did Brown say something about his computer going down or something?
I don't think he did.
Something about somebody going down.
Brown is frequently going down on people. We can't be sure whether that's one of those occasions.
You know what? It's how he made money during COVID, and he just couldn't stop.
Well, $20 is $20.
Got to pay for electricity and stuff somehow, you know.
We can indeed. Well, it's good to see you. We have another person coming out, and it is the Mega Geek himself. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. So Brown's muted himself.
He's had a brownout.
Yeah. I guess his button's broken or something. I don't know what's broken. And then again, I always thought he was broken.
His bottom.
He's just said in the chat it's not allowing him to come back in.
Oh, no. We'll just do it without you.
Well, while we're figuring this out, we have one more very special guest on the stream today, and because it's a very special guest, of course, the stream is entirely gone to shit, but I'm sure it won't put him off forever, so we'll welcome to the stream Robert Meyer Burnett. How are you, sir?
This is the most erudite-sounding bunch of folks I think I've ever streamed with. And the sex jokes are great. I'm very excited. I'm a big fan of going down, being down, anywhere.
It's part of our ongoing bid.
And 20 quid is 20 quid. That's all I'm gonna say. And,
that's a very low rate for going down on anyone. That's
that's definitely a bargain basement. That's fentanyl rates.
Four Brits versus 2 Americans.
Money is money, man.
It's true.
Inflation.
That's why I started my OnlyFans account. No, I really did.
Wait!
That's what I'm paying.
He's back. Thank God for that.
There's 2 little platoons. What's going on there?
Double platoon.
The biggest nights for the channel, and it all goes tits up. The music was on a continuous loop, like the Cause and Effect episode from TNG.
Wow.
Do you know, I kept exiting going, okay, there must be something wrong with my headset because I can't hear anything. And then I realized your mute, like little mute icon was on. I was like, oh, he forgot to unmute.
It was just on a loop.
Oh, okay.
Weird.
But now you're here, so that's good.
Okay.
Or is it?
I'm sure the viewers are enjoying the chaos.
There's viewers? When did this happen?
73, can you believe it?
73, or is it?
Yes.
Or is
Did
it
you need to
37?
make an extra $20 before the show?
73
did.
people watching this chicken shit
Oh,
outfit.
let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. There is 73. Bloody no.
I will
There you
say,
go.
Rob, welcome, my friend. Really great to have you on.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and it's good to be here. It's been too long, and hopefully I won't say anything offensive that gets us all canceled. But I think you guys have had that well in hand before I even got here, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. I can't wait to stream with. This is going to be
And
fun.
obviously,
stream.
we'll fix the beginning in post because they can fix everything.
No, you shouldn't. You should, as somebody just said earlier. No, keep it there. It makes it more
No.
entertaining.
Okay, so guests, thank you for turning up. Welcome. I will say hello, chats. We can see you just. Okay, so let me try and get into presenter mode. End of week musing. Sunday, April 16th, 2023. Episode 138. Can you believe it? Wow.
That's a lot.
Almost as many as you, Rob. Okay. If you have made it this far and you're enjoying this shambles, please like, share, and subscribe. Every single click will help this channel grow.
Indeed.
Okay, so as I said, mainly Picard this evening. So we'll just get to the other stuff before we knock ourselves out on Star Trek. So
Fugly
Superman and
Superman.
Lois. Yes, Fugly Superman.
Fugly
Who's
Superman.
watching this? Z?
I'm watching this. I think it's great. I love Fugly Superman and Lois. It's one of my favourite shows of the week. And some people
Wow.
have been complaining online about the whole breast cancer storyline with Lois, but I actually quite enjoying it.
You're
And,
enjoying her breast cancer.
I'm enjoying her breast cancer storyline. Yes, I am.
That's because Superman's been
Oh.
X-raying her too much.
That's right. That's what I was
Right.
going to say. Ian.
Lead lining bras. How many
Oh,
times
man.
have we told you, woman?
Rob, have you been watching Superman and Lois?
I watched the first season of it, and I quite liked it. But if they're going to make it so Superman somehow his body, because he channels the power of a yellow sun, is the cause of her breast cancer, I don't think I would like that. I don't know where
Well, I
that's
don't think
going.
they've gone down that route.
No,
she
they've not gone
she
down
does
that
have it, but I don't think it's his fault.
Yeah, no, I think, look, one of the things I like about this show, though, is, and this seems to be the breast cancer storyline would seem to go, you how do you have any kind of villain or any kind of antagonist for Superman that he can't defeat unless you have another Kryptonian? But what this show has done with all of his superpowers, it doesn't make him a great father. And with all of his superpowers, he can't defeat a disease. And I see that they've done a great job in allowing them to explore the character of Superman without, because I think that is the greatest problem about putting Superman on film, is how do you give him an antagonist that's believable? And you bring back Zod, it works because he's a Kryptonian, so they're equally matched. But how do you make Lex Luthor, for instance, an interesting antagonist in a Superman story? When Superman, there's no reason, if you push him far enough, he could just twist your head off and you're done. You don't have a problem. But in knowing Superman's not going to kill somebody, they have to make it believable that there is something that he is facing that is a credible threat and a lethal disease. My mother is a breast cancer survivor. She had two radical mastectomies over 3 years, which means they take her breasts and they take her lymph nodes. And it was, and she's now 8. She just turned 84 last week. So
Wow.
this was back in her
brilliant.
30s.
Wow.
And it was, it was rough because what do you do? And my grandmother, her mother was killed by breast cancer. And that's my mother was very diligent. When she found out that she even had the slightest inkling of breast cancer, she went out and took care of it. But it's one of those things that, and now they've got genetic testing to see if you're predisposed. So as long as they treat it in a way where, again, it's testing Superman's metal, because how does a Kryptonian deal with the fact that the woman he loves could be potentially killed, or has to have her body altered? And that's a tough thing. My mom was she was a very kind of, I call her an anal retentive perfectionist, but she was you know, when your body is, well, altered because of disease, it's a hard thing to live with.
That's one of the reasons I like the storyline in particular is despite all the Superman's powers, he's faced with something that he cannot fight against.
Yeah, I
No,
agree with that.
and they've done that a lot. I mean, in the show, and that's why I like the first season is how does Superman be a good dad? And that was something that I worked on Superman Returns, and I think that they wanted to deal with that, but I think that they did a better job of dealing with it in the first season of Superman and Lois.
Season 2, Z will agree with me with this, kind of maybe lost its way a teeny weeny bit. And
Yeah,
was slightly disappointing, but I
It
think
was.
they've come back, and they've come back hard. If you know
How,
what I mean.
how comes
So,
these
it's
kids
really
didn't
good.
couldn't see he was Superman? I mean, his kids watch Superman on TV all the time. They couldn't tell that their dad was
Because
Superman.
he had his glasses
He's
on.
on.
Come on. Honestly.
Pay
What the hell?
attention, Ian. Okay.
You're not supposed to give it away. No.
With regards to the villain, Z, the villain is great, isn't it?
Well, they're using Bruno Mannheim this season, and he's creating himself an army of superpowered individuals. They had one in particular who I thought was good, who had the ability to phase in and out of solid form, and he certainly gave Superman a run for his money, slicing him with a kryptonite dagger, but didn't beat the payoff at the end, and it was good to see that character back again.
Mhm.
I think this is the best thing coming out of DC, don't you, Z?
Yeah, it's the best thing since Arrow season 1. Everything else that's on the CW just cannot hold a candle to
I
it.
did
in my
like
opinion.
Flash season 1. I thought Flash season 1 was quite good as well.
It was okay, but it's turned into the Irish show now, and there's so many Bill Boss episodes. He's a passenger in his own series, so
what else is new?
Yeah, I'm giving it a hard pass on the Flash.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. So Z and I are recommending this still, aren't we, Z? So
We are 3 seasons in, and we're still recommending it.
Can we have Brainiac now, please?
Yeah, it would be great if we had Brainiac. Also, could we have Lex Luthor as the president? Because he really gave Superman a hard time in the comics.
I don't think we've seen him yet, have we? Z?
No.
No.
I mean, he knew he couldn't beat Superman via strength, so he basically used politics and the law to try and beat Superman, which was quite interesting in the comics. So you know.
Right. Okay.
one
Shall we
way.
move on?
Why not?
Do it.
Oh no, from one crap to the next crap. Fugly Superman to fugly woman.
Rob, how are you enjoying the Mandalorian?
Oh, well, I've to be honest, I found this season relatively inexplicable in its storytelling. I liked the last episode, and to me, they should have just started the season with that episode. Other than all of this going back and forth, I haven't really. I mean, I really am perplexed why they're not on Mandalore rebuilding the planet right now. To be honest, why weren't they already there? And why were the Mandalorians training by the side of the water when a giant reptilian creature could just pop out at any moment and eat them?
We said all this before.
Yeah,
If it's not the crocodile, it's the suddenly pterodactyl. It steals all of their children, which does it multiple times, and they still don't think to move away from the planet.
No,
and the reason, to answer your question, the reason they're not on Mandalore already is that the script demanded that they not go there yet, and that is literally the only reason why.
Yeah, I look, bad writing is bad writing. And I don't mean to criticize. I mean, I do mean to criticize. I criticize it all the time. But I think that this season of Mandalorian has been terribly written, and I don't get any of it, and I don't understand why with all the great TV that we get, whether you're watching House of the Dragon or whether you're watching Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I mean, take whatever your favorite show is. That should be the baseline of what all writing is on TV, and especially on a science fiction, fantasy, or horror show, where we have such great examples of good writing compared to bad writing. Why does Star Wars should be like Star Trek should be the Tiffany standard of writing for science fiction?
It's because of KK. That's why.
Yeah, we've said something's going on. There's been a massive drop off with the writing this season.
Yeah, and
it's got to be stuff going on in the background that
Yeah, I
Favreau.
mean, I don't share. I have a different. I think a lot. I think about Kathleen Kennedy in a different way than a lot of other people do, in the sense that Kathleen Kennedy is a great producer. In the sense that what her job has always been is she's worked with visionaries, who she is there to facilitate their vision. So, like, when she worked with Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg, these are great visionaries, and they tell her, here's the movie I want to make, and she makes sure that they have everything they need to make whatever it is they're making. That's what a great producer does. I think one of the problems that she's had as the president of Lucasfilm is she expected all of these visionary people, because this is what she's used to doing. Like when she was hiring people like Josh Trank to do the Boba Fett film, or she hired Lord and Miller to do Solo, she was making interesting choices. And then what ended up happening was the people that, because she's not used to getting in front of people and telling them what to make. Her career, since her first producing credit was on E.T. in 1982, her first feature full producer credit, and then she's been a producer and an exec producer ever since. She's worked with filmmakers that really knew what they were doing, and she's not somebody that steps in and tells people what to do. She makes sure that people have what they need to tell the stories they need to tell. And I think that now, first and foremost, Disney bought an IP, and she has to do what Disney wants, first and foremost. And when Disney said, we want to reinvent Star Wars, The Force Awakens, I hate all three of those Star Wars movies, to be honest.
Right.
But The Force Awakens is a movie where they literally tried to reboot Star Wars from the beginning. But that was the mandate from Disney on high. I don't think that was a Kathleen Kennedy choice. Kathleen Kennedy, I don't think is
Did
a Star
you
Wars
think
fan.
it didn't feel like a Star Wars film, though?
I didn't, because the problem with there's nothing in it that felt authentic. Like, for instance, in the original Star Wars, I've often said, Star Wars is about a truck driver and a farm boy that normal guys, workaday guys. Star Wars was about normal people, and then they had their wizard, crazy veteran of foreign wars dude over here in Kenobi. But they were normal dudes who fell into this situation, and they were required to be extraordinary. And that's what made Star Wars so interesting. In The Force Awakens, everybody's extraordinary. I mean, Rey was birthed as the most extraordinary person in the universe. And I mean, everything she's ever done, she does well. Like, how does she step behind the controls of the Millennium Falcon and pilot it through a crashed Star Destroyer better than we've ever seen anybody pilot any ship ever in the Star Wars universe? That you watch that, I couldn't watch The Force Awakens and not hate it, because it missed the point of what Star Wars was, and which is about all of us are Luke Skywalker. All of us have the potential to be extraordinary. The Force surrounds us and binds all of us. You don't need midichlorians. You don't need, and anybody can step up if called upon and save the universe.
So what you're saying is that KK isn't responsible for the making Star Wars women-led. Who's responsible for that?
No, I think everybody now, especially in Hollywood, is following what they perceive to be what they're supposed to do. That's why you're seeing all of these. Now we have to have all of these female-centric characters, and I don't necessarily think it's because that's fashion now. It's like, let's have strong female characters. That's and let's give all of this representation now. Everyone's trying to do good by having this representation. I don't think, like, that picture of her that says the Force is female. That's actually a shirt from Nike. That's a Nike, the shoe company. That was not a Star Wars shirt. That was a Nike shirt that they used, that they wore, but they didn't make a Force is female shirt. It was a Nike shirt that they're wearing.
Well, if they did, they'd have Dylan Maloney, whatever the Mulvaney wearing.
Well, they would, yes.
That's another thing. I mean that person, I think she's running the long con. She's playing a part. Before
Agreed.
She transitioned, she's always been playing a part. And what's really interesting is no one wants to come out and say it, but I think one of the problems we have, especially here in America, is the hard-fought rights of women are being systematically dismantled. And the question is, we have to ask ourselves why. And someone like Dylan Mulvaney is, I mean, she is playing a caricature. I mean, she's almost wearing woman face, literally, and is playing the worst kind of stereotype female.
Some of the big channels have been saying, some of the commentary channels have been saying that she is effectively playing blackface.
No, she actually is, and it's really horrifying. And we have a huge problem in this country. I was just watching an article or a video about how a lot of this ideology that has been, it's really only erupted over the last 10 years. And in everybody's desire to be inclusive and helpful, I respect that. I think there are a lot of marginalized voices that need to be heard. On my own channel, I always say that every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. But now people are they're allowing marginalized voices to speak and to tell the stories that we should hear. But now they're doing that in order to get rid of other voices. Other people.
So hold on. So if Kathleen Kennedy's in charge of Star Wars, why didn't she balance the whole story out where males and females will have certain roles, good roles, and therefore pushing Star Wars forward? Why did she just opt to make every male stupid in the script? I mean, she's the producer. She sees the script. She must see that the script is one way, and then the second one was even worse when it came to males.
But I think
the third one. So I don't subscribe to what you're saying. I think KK is responsible. She is the producer. She oversees the scripts. So she must be responsible for what's happening in Star Wars.
But you have to understand, though, that if you're J.J. Abrams and you get hired by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy is not telling J.J. Abrams what to write. She just isn't. That's not how Hollywood works. She can consult, sure. But in terms of J.J. Abrams, he's like, no, this is my script. And I think and this is something that is not, I don't think it's frustrating to talk to. There's a lot of punditry shows, and I've talked to a lot of people. She is running Lucasfilm, but when a director is hired to write a screenplay, Kathleen Kennedy will defer to that director.
So when one of the innumerable numbers of directors who've been hired and then let go for quote unquote creative differences with Lucasfilm, with whom are they having a creative difference?
With her. Oh, for sure.
So she does have a say.
She does have a say.
Okay.
She
Yeah,
does.
I was getting confused there for a second.
No, she has a say, absolutely. But remember, it's Disney that is saying what they should and shouldn't make. And, it's Disney, the overarching ideas that Lucasfilm is a subsidiary of Walt Disney Studios. So, and what's happening now is they are, the things they're making, the MCU isn't working, Star Wars isn't working, because they're so muddled over at Disney with what their messaging is. And their messaging is, tell me a good story, give me great characters. Now everyone's running around trying to appease this, whatever, if it's ideology or whatever, and they are losing the plot. And the plot is, tell me a good story with great characters. Now they're trying to service what they see is going on in the real world. And they're trying to make all things for all people. No one can do that.
But pleasing nobody.
You're pleasing nobody. The core mission statement of any story is you have to tell a story that is true to itself, that has great characters and a great story to tell.
It's a lost art form.
No, I absolutely think that's true.
Here you go, folks. Neil
bred out.
says it all goes back to Bob Iger.
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
I don't know whether I subscribe to that, but I know how it works. Well, I know how majority it works in Hollywood, and she's responsible. She's responsible for those scripts. She and I have friends. I say I have friends in those kind of establishments that tell me things and stuff. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I tend to believe it because I know the people who are telling me that stuff. So I don't know whether to believe what you're saying. I kind of suspect that you're wrong, but then again, it's just my opinion. You might be right. Who knows?
Well, I mean,
Could you both be right?
Yeah, I think that there's because Kathleen Kennedy. I'm not saying. I want to be clear. I'm not saying she has no say, But I am saying that when a director or writers are hired to make something, the director is usually the highest ranking member of the project. And when a movie sets sail, when a movie starts being made, and that's why something like Solo took so long for her to finally put the brakes on, because she thought the movie's being made. Once Lord and Miller could make the movie they wanted to make, and it was Lawrence Kasdan who wrote the script that was finally like, enough of this tomfoolery. They're improvising, they're going off page.
I was there.
Well, yeah, I mean, then that's what happened.
Probably
And-
was an extra on.
I can
on
confirm.
Solo.
I can confirm it was chaos.
Oh,
They spent a week on one single shot whilst they were trying to get their actors to do ad hoc lines and ad-libbing, and it went on and on and on, and nothing really progressed. So she was running around like a headless chicken.
And that's why it happened. Now, what happened in Kathleen Kennedy's defense? If you look at the movie she's produced over the last 40 years, she's worked with some of the best people in the business.
Yeah, but
And
she's not responsible creatively. For
Right.
those, but she is responsible creatively for these films. She has to say in the scripts, like for instance, when she was producing E.T., it was written by
Melissa Mathis.
and Spielberg's, obviously it was the original idea, so they were in charge. Her job was to produce it, make sure that, as you said, make sure everybody was there, whatever. She wasn't creatively responsible. She is creatively responsible for the Star Wars movies.
Okay, but why would you? Let me ask you this: why would that change? Why is she creatively responsible? She's the president of Lucasfilm.
Yeah,
But they're still hiring directors and writers, and Hollywood still works the same way.
the question is,
There's
why
a difference,
didn't she?
isn't there, between working as a producer under a director and working as a president over a director?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the thing about that is she's the president of the studio, and she's dealing with Disney, but she's still not going to. Like, she decides who's going to make the movie, but she still expects the filmmakers to go make the movie they're going to make. And Solo is a perfect example. The filmmakers, that hiring Lord Miller was an interesting choice because they'd made 21 and 22 Jump Street. They produced, they did this after, they did Spider-Man after, but they were considered hot properties in Hollywood. She gets them. It seems like they're young guys, really good hire. She expects them to go make the movie that they were tasked to make, which was Lawrence Kasdan's script for Solo. Looks like it's a dream made in heaven. Lawrence Kasdan wrote Empire. He wrote Raiders. Why not? And Jedi. Why not hire? All good. She sets that ship sailing. She's like the queen. But Christopher Columbus has left to the New World. And when it turns out that Lord Miller, 70% into the movie, suddenly it becomes like, this is not the movie that you were supposed to make. And she had to pull the plug and replace. I mean, this is not something that goes on normally in Hollywood. And you could say, because she expects the people she hires to make the movies that they're supposed to make.
Yes, but I feel that there's definitely an agenda there. All future Disney Lucasfilm announcements are all about the girl bosses. You've got the Ahsoka series, who's going to be focused on Ahsoka, Hera, and Sabine. You've got the
but remember,
Rey movie.
But it's Dave Filoni Dave Filoni is the one guy who produced the Clone Wars, Rebels. He's been successful with his fiefdom within the Star Wars universe. And it was Kathleen Kennedy who said to Jon Favreau, look, you should work with Dave Filoni making the show. And what Dave Filoni has succeeded in doing, Ahsoka's his character. He created her. So now he's being given a live action show where basically the Star Wars universe is now the Filoni-verse, and it's everything else. The problem with everything else is nobody in Hollywood really wants to make a Star Wars movie. Would you? There's nobody. There's no all you just for anybody to go make a Star Wars movie. Any filmmaker, you've got the woman who's going to direct this Rey movie. She's got nothing to lose. She's never
going to happen.
But why would you hire someone like that, though? That's the thing. She hasn't made a feature film.
She's directed 3 episodes of Ms. Marvel. That's surely a qualifying.
Right. So why? Hold on.
It's
as
also...
a producer, as Kathleen Kennedy's the producer, why you'd be stupid to hire someone that has hardly any experience directing a feature film.
She's also an incredibly experienced feminist activist, and she co-chairs.
Yes.
So she's got all the relevant experience.
And that's the thing, because Kathleen Kennedy is the one that's selling this idea to the audience and saying, we are doing this because, you know, X, Y, and Z, and basically just selling the agenda and saying, yes, we're
Absolutely.
proud
Or
to be feminist.
XX
And
rather
think,
than
you know.
XY.
Yeah, you know what I
There
mean.
might potentially
yeah.
be
I
a
totally
middle
agree with you.
ground
That-
to be
and
struck
that's-
here.
But that's what's happened.
Yeah.
The everything is now Star Trek has fallen to activism, and
Yeah.
everybody has good intentions. But what they're doing is they're putting their agendas in front of their
Pathway to
characters
hell.
and their stories. Like I was saying this earlier on a stream today, it's all the good intentions are the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
It is.
Yeah,
And-
like
and-
even
Absolutely.
the actress for the Acolyte, Jodie Turner-Smith, claiming that Star Wars is very patriarchal.
Oh,
Well, I mean, it's
Get the
all
hell out
of that
of
is yeah,
Embarrassing.
all of that is the world is patriarchal for a reason. And you know, if you ask yourselves, I mean, how long has there been a patriarchy? Thousands of years. Why? Because we're dimorphically sexual. There's a male and female sex. Women can have babies. Men can't.
Anymore.
Men have to.
Anymore.
Right. Well, that's all part of the deconstruction.
Yeah, I
and that's the
know,
whole,
Yeah.
which is bad. I mean, I
Yeah.
was talking about this, but you want to get away from that. I'm all for strong female characters. We had them.
Same
Yeah,
here.
but they're not
Ripley.
strong female characters if they have no development to show that
Precisely.
they've fought for that. They've struggled in order to achieve that.
100%. And
With
you
all,
know what?
with all due respect, Robert, I actually think that Kathleen Kennedy is responsible for all this stuff. There's no way she can't be responsible for the scripts, for the
I
ideas.
do as well, but there you go.
Exactly. So, I mean, you know,
Well, you have to understand. Look, I agree. I'm not saying she's not at all responsible, but what's happening is that there is a larger societal agenda at play that they're trying to appease, and Disney's trying to appease it as a company as well, and so are other companies. And you know, the whole thing with Dylan Mulvaney and Hauser Busch that we saw play out badly.
Yes.
You know, you have all of these people are trying to score points.
Well, it's a bubble, isn't it? It's a Hollywood
Indeed.
bubble. Everyone thinks
That's
the
a quote
same,
bubble.
and they all hold each other to account. They all police one another.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't agree with so and so, then you don't get invited to such and such party, and then you don't get invited to do such and such a project, and it's all word of mouth, isn't it? They all talk about each other to each other, and
I'll tell you something that's even worse. If you're producing a show, whether it's a TV show or a movie, you have HR departments, human resources. Nowadays, human resource departments at studios are very sensitive. You have younger people who are calling human resources on a daily basis, complaining that they're in some kind of a hostile workplace. And I'm not
I'm
kidding.
impressed.
This is
We all are.
this is a problem. And you have an entire generation of I'll tell you something that happened to me this week. There was a Star Trek website that complained about me to Paramount that literally tried to get me in trouble because my outspoken hatred of modern Star Trek is something that a lot of people don't appreciate. They literally reported me to the studio for doing something
What?
oh yeah.
Crazy.
It's
so vindictive. I mean, the Be Kind crowd are the most vindictive bunch
worst.
of people I've ever seen in my life.
They're one step away from jackbooted Nazi thugs.
Absolutely.
That will sell out Anne Frank.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're dealing with, especially here in the States. And it's terrifying. You know, I used to think that I was a classical liberal with left leanings. The left scares me more than ever. I mean, because they are a bunch of jackbooted.
Well, they're all authoritarians. They always have been. I mean, there's a big, discussion now about where the Artsies really were on the spectrum. We talk about them being far right and all this. Well, no, because that's an oxymoron. They're actually totalitarian collectivists and all that, really. I mean, if you look at Mr. Hilter, he was elected as a communist in 1919, which not a lot of people know. And the fascists, former Marxists. You could argue there's a third way, but it's very leftist. It's peculiarly leftist.
You can find the balance in a script, though. Jedi balance, of course. You can find the balance in a script, making sure that the males have a good part and the females have a good part, and you can do it. But it seems that Kathleen Kennedy is not interested in that. All she wants to do is put women bosses in movies and denigrate the males. It's
and sell the agenda.
Question.
I agree, Ian.
I think it's not just Kathleen Kennedy; it's the people that also are making these movies.
It's a culture.
That are
It's a culture. I mean, it's a
Well,
culture held together by fear. fear of
Yeah,
each other.
did you read that Jeeves and Wooster? Did you read this today? It was reported 4 hours ago on Deadline. P.G. Woodhouse's Jeeves and Wooster. They're going to change the prose. They're going to edit those books. Jeeves and Wooster Penguin Random House has altered what it termed the unacceptable prose of author P.G. Woodhouse in new editions of his.
Who are these
Jeeves
people?
That
and
is just
Wooster series.
sad.
Who are these people?
That is
These
so
are
sad.
these arbiters of absolutely everything. These moral, social justice warriors who sit in judgment over thousands of years of literary history.
I mean, human history is an ugly, ugly place, and this idea that somebody is going to change words.
Joe Darkness, 1984, folks.
Oh, it's there. You know, we've always been at war with Oceania. Or
Brave New World.
If
well.
Kathleen Kennedy is as good as she says she should fight against this stuff. If what you're saying is true, she should step up, make sure the scripts are balanced between males and females or whatever you want to call them now. And move forward. That's what she's doing, but she's not.
I agree.
Doing that. That's
I completely agree because everyone is trying to be, everyone's trying to be politically correct. I mean, it is a I will tell you, it is a horrible time to be working in the arts. I never would have thought that I would see this.
I was saying to Ben, I watched Mario Brothers, and they didn't rescue the princess, but that was okay because they saved Brooklyn. Do you know what I mean? So it was balanced. It was quite balanced there, there. So that's what they should try and do instead of going all one way, because that's just insulting the fan base and people get upset like us.
The weirder thing is that
final comment, Rob, and we'll move on.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that genre entertainment has for a long time has always had strong female characters, science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yep. You know, Heather Langenkamp's character was the hero. The final girl, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Everyone else is getting killed. She doesn't. Ripley in Alien. You know, Buffy in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's a show that had all kinds of inclusion and representation in it, but it also had strong male leads and also a strong female lead who was still also very feminine. It is only recently that this weird shit has happened. And the question is, why? Why is it happening now? And who is responsible for it? And it's a much bigger problem in our society. And I think it's definitely something that is being pushed on purpose. And the real question is why. And it's being, and everyone's, I'll tell you, people are scared.
I know.
People are scared to come out and say things, to say the truth.
An actor that went up for an audition. This is someone my friend lives in LA. So the first thing they asked him was, "What do you think of the LGBT community?" That's the first, even before he read a line on the script.
Well, and you know what? I'll tell you something. In the arts, the LGBTQ community has always been strong. Yeah. I mean, I've worked in Hollywood for 34 years, and I've had friends, LGBTQ friends, since I was 13 years old. Some of them are terrified too. Yeah, I know. Because the hard-fought rights that they've been fighting for are also at stake.
They've been dismantled. They've been dismantled mainly from within, from the TQ plus.
Yes.
Who are fundamentally homophobic, as far as I consider.
Yep. And I mean, I have a friend. He's been married to his partner. Gay marriage was legal in California. Then it was made illegal. Then it was legalized again. And so I have had friends that I've known most of my life that are terrified by some of the weird things that are going on now.
It's sad. It's really sad, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, guys, I think we should move on. 40 minutes.
All this over the Mandalorian.
That's all.
It was a good conversation. I love sparring with Rob.
I think it's great.
I will say the problems of today, it's all down to the Mandalorian, so blame Bo-Katan. Super chat, folks. Dark Hour. Hello, Dark Hour, for $2. Ironically. Today, shall we not try to get bogged down? I think we did. Too late.
It's a laugh. Come on.
Here you go. Romeo Tango November Zulu for $5.50 New Zealand dollars. Hail, Brown guest and chat, and welcome to the great sage of geekdom.
I don't know. I was having some pushback. I don't know how much of a sage I am.
And benevolence overlord of the Robocracy? Yes, Robert Meyer.
Robtocracy.
Burnett.
No, I look. I got to admit, I love Rob. So he
Live
knows I
long
love him
and
anyway.
No,
so
of course.
there you go.
And look, I appreciate this is what I love. I love great conversation where we can
Exactly.
respectfully disagree with one another.
Yeah.
Where did that art go?
You know,
You're
yeah,
offending me!
I agree. Whatever happened to agreeing to disagree and being adult about it and still being able to have an intellectual discussion?
Because I won't have power over you if I don't say so.
You're so
you know,
rude. You
drink.
just want power over everyone, Lee.
Yes!
And on that bombshell, let's move on.
On that bombshell.
Move along.
Ooh, he called you a bombshell.
I like
know,
this
right?
show, by the way.
I like
Yeah,
this show too.
Yeah, I started
Am I
watching.
the
I
only
just
one?
stumbled across this. John Cassar, who's a Hollywood director. I kind of have Twitter dealings with him over the years, and he said you should be watching this. So he goes, oh, okay.
The question is, has Kiefer said, "God damn it," yet in this show? He always says that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Z,
I
you
mean,
enjoying this?
I do,
Sorry.
especially enjoying Kiefer Sutherland smashing holes in walls and pulling things out.
Yeah.
It's been very good at doing that so far. It's kept me engaged. Nothing is as it seems.
Yeah.
And every episode, there seems to be another twist of the knife.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but I'm
Nor
liking the
am I.
way it's going.
And Tywin Lannister rules.
Mm.
Oh,
Charles
yeah.
Dance.
Are
love
you
it,
up
Charles
to date
Dance.
with this then, Rob? I think is it episode 5 drops tonight.
Yeah, I'm up to date.
I'm
It's
on
great because I
episode 3.
watch Succession and I watch this back to back.
Oh.
Ooh, my
Yeah.
husband loves Succession.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's great.
Are you having the same problems with this program as I am? I can't get past. It's Jack Bauer.
No.
No, it kind of
No.
is like 24 Junior. I don't
It
know.
is a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't get past it. It took me 2 episodes to okay.
But he's
okay.
not running around shooting people, though, is he? And saying,
No.
"God damn it," every second, is he?
I just
So
want to
Not
know
yet.
what happened to Jack. That's all I want to know is what happened to
it's
Jack.
coming back. Apparently, he's doing a 24 soon. Apparently, well,
You want to
to
hear an interesting story? They were
Always.
going to make a Die Hard 24 crossover
yeah.
movie,
Yeah, they were.
Oh.
and they couldn't. So there's a really interesting thing about intellectual property. So when you want to go back and you want to make a movie like a Die Hard movie, you have to go back and pay the original screenwriter. I mean, Die Hard was based on a book, but if it was an original character, you have to go back, and I think it's like 35 years. If something is 35 years or older, and Die Hard came out in '88. So was it this year that was 35 years? Or no, it was, yeah, because so they had a problem. What ends up happening is then they have to go renegotiate in order to make another John McClane or use any of those characters movie. And that was true of Predator. They were able to get the movie Prey out because Predator was 87. So before they were able to get Prey made just in time. And there is I forget his name, but there's a lawyer in Hollywood. All he does, his entire practice, is to go out and find IP that's 35 years old or older that they want to make more movies of,
Oh, wow.
jump on those and soak the studios in order for them to get the rights back. And with IP so important in Hollywood now, anything that's older than 35 years has this guy out there trying to make as much money as he can for the studios. So, and that's why the Die Hard 24 movie didn't happen,
Oh.
because they didn't want to pay for it.
No, they did the English. They did when he came to England, didn't they? That was the last one they did.
Yeah.
That was the last one.
You mean 24 or Die Hard?
No, 24.
Yeah.
24
When he
when he
came
was
to
in
England,
London.
yeah.
As I said, I have a kind of Twitter relationship with John Cassar, the director who's directed episode 4, and obviously he's a big 24 director and the Orville. He's told me they want to do it, but it's just down to the don't hold the rights to do it. They're desperate to do 24,
Yeah.
but they just it's whoever is holding on to the rights. It's down to them.
Yeah.
Have you noticed, right, that there isn't action? There's not enough action shows on TV or TV shows with action in it. I mean, the last one was 24, right? And Reacher, but they're very far and few between, aren't they? You know, action all the way kind of stuff, if you know what I mean. Don't you think? Or am I missing a few?
No A teams. No,
Well, you know,
Knight
yeah.
Riders.
Kind
No,
of.
none of
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Because in the old days there was Starsky and Hutch that had action in it, you know, the Professionals, you know, and they had like
Love the
there was a slew of them, weren't they? And Sweeney had
Yeah.
that baseball fat.
It's probably just
baseball
cheaper
bat
to make
fight every week.
procedurals, isn't it?
Yeah, I
That's the problem.
guess.
Here you go, folks. Connor, surely 24 has been done to death at this point.
No, we want another one, mate. I love 24.
We just want to know what
Love it.
happened to Jack. That's all,
Yeah.
and we'll be
Well,
happy.
You guys had a show in the UK that I loved, which was for you guys. It was called Spooks.
Oh,
But
yes.
you couldn't have that show in America, so they
No.
retitled it to MI5. Well, I love that.
That was good.
The first time
Yeah.
I saw Matthew McFadden, who plays Tom on Succession, he was Tom Quinn in the first season of MI5 or Spooks.
And
That
they
kind of
made
was
it-
like
They
that
made
was
it into a film, didn't they?
they did
Yeah.
with Jon Snow.
That's right. Yeah.
With I love that show. That was the first time I realized that any character was no longer safe.
Yeah.
They would kill off their main. I couldn't believe that show. It was amazing. That predated 24. That
Yeah.
show was awesome.
It was good. It was a good show. I used to watch it. It's a good show.
So, Rob, would you recommend Rabbit Hole to everybody in the chats?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little silly. You know, it's kind of got, but I'm enjoying it. Like somebody said in the chat, it's 24 meets Designated Survivor meets, you know what, and it's pretty good. I mean, I love conspiracy thriller movies. I've always loved them, and this. I mean, my whole thing is it seems to be piling one thing on top of another, and it has the potential to get really ridiculous. But you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Right now, I'm enjoying it. 4 episodes in, I'm liking it.
May I do some super chats? Princess Fiona for $2. RMB Picard S3. Shill or lapse?
I am an unapologetic lover of season 3 of Picard. I think it's an amazing season of TV, and I'll tell you something. The reason I love it is because take away the Star Trek out of it. All right, it's about characters who have gotten older. They've reassessed their lives, and the same way I love Color of Money, the Paul Newman movie Color of Money. If you've seen The Hustler, which was made in the 60s, Paul Newman comes back in the 80s and plays Fast Eddie Felson. He's in a much different place in his life. His life didn't turn out where he wanted to be. And I think that, look, Riker's story alone, when he has the moment where he's explaining that he had to put his son in the grave and how he saw an endless darkness and couldn't get out of it. And that's why he ran away from Deanna. And in episode 4, when this situation happens, true cosmic awe and wonder, and he's telling Deanna, he says, you know, I've witnessed a birth, and he found his way back out of that pit. I know people like that. I know people that have lost children. This is something that you never saw a Star Trek character deal with in this way. And I think what they've done in terms of family, in terms of legacy, Geordi having 2 daughters, the relationship that they have, I love seeing these characters different, because in Star Trek The Next Generation, the characters were written as archetypes. They weren't really written as real people. Occasionally you get an episode like Inner Light, or you get an episode like Family, and you would see Picard dealing with something, but the next episode they're back to their archetypes. And
sorry, Rob. I was just going to say, Rob, sorry for interrupting.
No,
we recommended Picard to somebody who's not even seen Next Generation, and we said you would just totally get it purely on what you've just said.
Yeah. And it's very interesting to me, because there's been a schism. I've seen that older fans, I think, are really liking Picard, and younger fans who, and that's not always true, because there have been people that are my age that have not liked it either. But I'm seeing a lot of nitpicky stuff going on, and that's fine, because I'm a canonista for Star Trek. But when I grew up as a fan, and I've told people a lot of this, there's a series of books that came out called The Best of Trek, and they were a collection of essays about Star Trek, and there was like 20 of them published, and they were all essays taken from this fan magazine. And in it there was a author, I never knew if it was a guy or a girl, named Leslie Thompson, and Leslie Thompson always wrote these essays, Star Trek Mysteries Solved. And Leslie would take things that were inconsistent. Like, for instance, there was no United Federation of Planets in the first season of Star Trek. The Federation was started to be mentioned in the second season. You heard about things called UNESPA, like the United Earth Space Probe Agency was something. So it was like, so what is it? Is it the Federation? Is the United Earth Space Probe Agency? And you just have to assume that obviously it's because for production issues, they don't have an answer yet. But in this series of articles that Leslie Thompson wrote, they would try and bridge the gaps, fill in what seemed to be an inconsistency based on different information given throughout Star Trek episodes. So as I grew up as a fan, one of the things that I was just because of these articles, when there was ever something that was inconsistent, like for instance, there was no Third World War until Encounter at Farpoint. When they mentioned the Third World War, there was the eugenics wars, which I generally considered to be World War III was in the 90s when the genetic Superman came to power.
Yeah.
And then when Next Generation first episode Encounter at Farpoint, they talk about the Third World War, which we saw the remnants of in Star Trek First Contact. That had never been mentioned before. So then suddenly, as a Star Trek fan, I have to go, okay, well, this is a huge canon violation because there used to only be 79 original episodes of Star Trek in the 22 animated episodes. That's all we had. And then Next Generation comes out of the gate and fundamentally changes the history of the Star Trek universe. So do you sit there and get mad about that? Or do you then go, okay, I have to now retcon in my own mind the Star Trek universe? And so there's a lot of people, when people are nitpicking, like, why does somebody cock a phaser rifle like Beverly Crusher does in the first episode of Picard season 3? Well, in my mind, we've never seen that before, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with that.
Yeah,
Maybe they have a modified phaser rifle. Maybe that's the way you change the settings. We just haven't seen it before. So to me, that's not a canon violation. It's just something we haven't seen, and it's up to you to fill in that blank. And there's a lot of that going on where people are throwing at me these little things, and I'm like, why does that even bother you? I'm more interested, again, in the characters and the story that's being told.
Shall we actually move on to Picard?
Picard.
I mean, I'd be curious, what do you guys all think of it?
Lord, are you up to speed with Picard?
Oh no, don't ask the Lord. We're going to be here all day.
Here it comes.
Wow.
Yes.
Hello, Lord. Hello. Hello there.
Hello.
Go on,
I
Lord.
am up to
Give us
speed,
your best.
yes. As of today, I'm up to speed with Picard.
And
It's okay. It's benefiting immensely from what's around it. I don't think it's anything truly exceptional. But it does a good enough job given everything else is complete shit.
Wow, that was short. That was
It
very
was.
short.
It's most unlike you.
He's been intimidated by Ian taking the
I've
mickey.
spent. Where was I? I was on 3 hours on Open Bar on Thursday, party on Friday, 5 hours on EPAP yesterday. I'm now into hour, however the fuck many, of streaming. So I'm saving my voice because I'm also live again tomorrow. No, Picard is. I don't know what else there is to be said about Picard. I think I've said it all already in previous streams. Picard does a good enough job with what it's given. It's over reliant on member berries, I think, to drum up public affection. It's over-reliant on contrivance to move its plot along. So it's by no means an exceptional work of art, but it is good enough, and compared to everything that's come before it, which is not really a very good standard to criticize anything on, it's very good. It benefits from being a soft reboot on the last 2 seasons, so you don't really have to watch that dog shit to make sense of this.
Thank God.
By the way, 2 of the worst, most horrible seasons of science fiction television ever made.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Ever
awful.
made.
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't know. I really liked that they went back in time to try and stop Trump getting re-elected. That's exactly what Star Trek has always been about.
Oh, God, get out.
That was great fun to see. Yes. Yeah, no, I mean,
Oh my
and this episode, I think, is no exception in the sense that it does rely very heavily on characters doing perhaps unwise things, which they wouldn't do if they were in their right minds.
Jack.
In order to, yes, that being an approximate example. And also, I do think one thing that there is to be said about it and for it, though, is that it's kind of a bold move because you could interpret it in quite a specific political way, the fact that you've got an entire younger generation who has become prone to Borg mentality and is turning good old familiar things against the old masters is potentially quite an interesting read of it. And I don't know if that was a deliberate attempt at sort of
I like to
reclaiming
think
from
so.
the younger people. It would be nice. I mean, I'm a youngish person myself, but I think my generation's full of absolute bastards. So I'm all in favour of deborging them.
Say what you mean.
Jackbooted thugs that'll sell out Anne Frank.
I
There you
actually,
go, yeah.
I actually think this season is very enjoyable. Again, I agree with Ben. By all means, it's not a great work of art, but it's entertaining, very very entertaining. And God, this last episode, the only thing I didn't want to happen
Spoilers, by the way.
was the Borg thing. The Borg thing. I was like, oh no, they bring that back again. But apart from that. It
And
was a
Shaw.
really good episode. Oh, and Shaw dying. What the hell? Why?
Why?
The Borg reveal was a little bit weird. It was kind
Yeah, I
of
didn't like that.
Ghostbusters,
Yeah,
but inside the fridge is a Borg cube. That's an interesting one.
I think they wasted Shaw.
I
It
know.
it was not a glorious death.
We all knew it was coming. Yeah, the thing was, he hadn't completed his character arc, and that annoyed me, that they allowed him to die so pointlessly and needlessly without any real meaning to it. What it should have been a big sacrificial moment, maybe to save 7 of 9, although I think it had more emotional impact if she had been shot. But hey, that's just me. But I think because of what he said during his speech during that scene in the holodeck at the bar, that should have been paid off much more impactfully, where he feeling that guilt of surviving would have sacrificed himself in a much more nuanced way.
But we can, as Robert says, we can nitpick and stuff like that. But overall, this season is really entertaining, and I'm glad I'm watching, because I was never going to watch this season because of season 1. Because I never watched season 2. I was never going to watch this. I was done with Star Trek, but because of Terry and because of Dave Cullen. Dave Cullen and Terry tweeting me, and Dave Cullen saying it's good. That's why I watched it, and I got to admit, I'm enjoying it.
Dave Cullen's been also critical of the show. He has been like saying this is the best thing ever. I really love Dave Cullen.
Yeah, so do I.
Rennie?
Yeah, can I ask a stupid question? Is the season over yet?
No,
one more.
One episode.
Okay.
One more.
And
there is a mid-credit scene that people should stay for.
Oh, that's good to know.
Oh.
Because I'll be honest with you guys. So, like, my husband is like a major Trekkie, and he's kind of listening in with me, and he's just really enjoying all the insights on this stuff.
Are you married?
But yes, I am. I'm married. So, like, I watched season 1, and after the whole Picard bot debacle, I stopped watching it. And then he watched like through season 2, or at least halfway through season 2, and just couldn't stomach it. So, we're both afraid of the whole like bait and switch, or the whole like, being really good episodes and then the ending just not wrapping up well, or just being a total like slap in the face. And that's why we haven't started watching it yet. So we're waiting to hear that the entire season was good before we watch it.
It is.
Rennie, I recommend it.
Spoilers.
Okay.
I recommend it, seriously. It is very enjoyable.
Just quickly going back to Shaw, Captain Kirk didn't want a meaningless death. I think this I think this was a meaningless death for Shaw.
It was.
For
He did save it
sure.
through, though.
Faux show.
For Shaw.
For Captain Shaw.
It was
By
a
the
real
way,
shame. I liked
Todd Stashwick is just a great guy.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Oh yeah, yes.
Great actor.
And he's a dyed-in-the-wool super nerd. He's got his own
We need to get him on
D&D
here. We need
room,
to get him
and
on here.
he's very amenable to coming on shows and stuff. He's really great.
nice guy.
Z, your thoughts?
Just a few nitpickies. I enjoyed it really, but I can understand why they took the Enterprise D. It was an iconic moment, but if I'm being honest, Voyager would have been the better bet. It's got ablative shield generators and advanced armor technology, which is a lot better for fighting the Borg. Little hiccup on the scripting where they said the nacelles came from the USS Syracuse when it should have been the Star Drive came from the USS Syracuse. And what happened to all the changelings after the Borg took over?
Don't know.
They're in every aspect of the Federation, though, throughout. Have they
Yes.
just disappeared now?
They
I
just
don't
vanished.
understand.
I
Also,
don't know what
I'd like
happened
to ask
them.
a question. Right? Did anyone? Is it just me? But the Enterprise at the ending, did it have more windows on that ship? This version, it looked like it had more
No.
windows.
They had a crew of about 7 people or whatever it was, and all the lights had to be switched on, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they have to make it look
Looks
like it's got a
pretty.
full complement of crew.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I
Okay.
kind of think I know why they've got the Galaxy class. Because
Oh,
I kind of
I can
think I know
see.
what's going to happen next week, but that's just me. Even though
But I got chills
spoil
down
it,
my
actually.
spine hearing Major Baron Roddenberry back as the ship's computer.
Yeah.
Even though she's been departed for some
Oh,
time
hello.
now.
Your mic's phasing in and out, pal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Z,
It's
your
going
mic's
really
kinda...
loud and then quiet, then loud again.
Sorry about that.
Excited.
I was just saying that I loved Major Barrett Roddenberry back as the ship's computer.
Oh, it was great.
Mm.
And the
Really?
carpet.
Yeah, the carpet.
The carpet.
And also, they switched the lights on. Hooray!
Yay.
Hooray! They're not in darkness anymore.
Exactly.
Oh my
There
I
god!
think it's
you go.
incredible.
And,
that
So
you can-
everyone here recommends,
And all
basically,
its-
is what I'm
oh
hearing.
yeah.
All its beige glory.
No, I just, like I said, the hubby and I were like, we just didn't want to watch it, and then for him being a much bigger Trekkie than me, like to be super disappointed, and then like me growing up like largely during the Next Generation phase, to see any more detriment happen to any of these characters, I don't think that'd be fair. I wasn't much of a Trekkie, but my mom was, and this is something that I did to spend time with her. So
Here you go, folks. Chat's moving very, very fast. Sorry,
yes, it
guys.
is.
The movie cynic in the chat. Z's microphone is a bigger piece of trash than the Marvels.
oh,
Oh,
hush you.
poor Z.
Could I just possibly do some super chats?
Go for
No,
it.
go for it.
Okay.
It's your channel.
Movie cynic for $5. He says,
Oh dear.
Okay,
That's a
see you
very,
around the back
very-
in
You're
about
not,
5
I've
minutes.
been
Very
swearing.
cheap.
I apologize. I don't want you
here
to
you go. Channel favourites. Velma Dinklage in the chat for £2. That's real money. Mob. That's Bummy Z.
Oh
Backwards.
no. Oh no.
And Romeo Tango November Zulu for 220 New Zealand dollars. I love the 220.
Yeah.
Last 5 min Picard Ep9 engage.
Yeah, man.
Fuck
You did a
yeah.
good- yeah, that was a good
Engage.
impression.
Engage.
It took 3 seasons for Patrick Stewart to finally sound like Jean-Luc Picard
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
and to have Alice Krieg back as the ball queen.
Oh,
Yeah,
very good.
although it's only her voice. She's not
Oh.
the actress playing the board.
Oh,
queen.
okay.
They couldn't-
Rob,
they-
this should have been season 1,
I completely agree.
and they'd probably just leave it at that.
But I mean, what people also don't understand is that Patrick Stewart did not want that.
Yeah, I know.
He didn't.
We
want,
know the full story. He's
Yeah.
as much to blame as Secret Hideout. Why it
Yeah.
was shit.
I mean, I appreciate what they wanted to do, but I'm not a fan of actors. I think the Star Trek franchise in general has been harmed by getting actors to come back, and the actors then get to, because actors are not like, I've
Brexit.
sat down with the entire TNG cast. I interviewed them at length for hours at a time. And for the Blu-rays, the Star Trek The Next Generation Blu-rays, Roger Lay and I produced all the special features, and I interviewed the principal cast. And I sat down with Patrick Stewart. When I first sat down with him in New York, I said to him, I go, I don't want to talk to you about Star Trek. And he said to me, what? And I said, what do you know about Star Trek? And he laughed. I go, if I were to ask you about the geopolitical situation between the Klingons and the Romulans during the Battle of Narendra 3,
Wow.
what would you have to say about it? And he just looked at me, I don't even know what you said. And I go, I know. And I said, what people want to know about is you, Patrick Stewart. They already know about Star Trek. They know more about Star Trek than you've all forgotten. So to ask you about Star Trek would be silly. What they want to know is you. Who are you, Patrick Stewart, the man? And after that, we had two great conversations. And when you have actors, then they want you have to get Patrick Stewart to come back to play Picard. And what he wants to do is he wants to make the show relevant to himself. So suddenly he wants it to be about Patrick Stewart, the person, as opposed to being the character of Jean-Luc Picard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why season 2 had all this stuff about his mom hanging herself and mental illness. It's like in the 23rd, 24th, 25th century, there would be no such thing as mental illness. It would be cured already.
Of course it would. Yeah.
And we saw that in the original season of the original series back in 1966. They had whole facilities that helped people's mental mental health. And it was just so silly that they based so much of season 2 on Patrick Stewart's own
And
life.
Star Trek should never just be about a single person. It's
No.
always it's success. It's a collective piece. It's an ensemble piece, and that's why Star Trek works. It should really focus on.
Well, a
the
lot of
crew
people
as
say
a
that
whole.
Patrick Stewart's very pompous. Even when he started this series, he was too serious. Everybody was trying to joke around, and he was like, "You don't know your lines," blah blah blah. And
That's
a lot
true.
of people said that to him. Yeah,
They say that in the documentaries.
I will say what I've seen of. I bailed on season 1, 2 episodes in, bailed.
I never watched it.
2 episodes for season 2 as well, because of season 2, episode 1, I thought, oh, okay, this is promising, and then it just went off the rails. What I saw, I don't even think Stewart looked like he was enjoying himself, whereas now you can see that he's really enjoying what he should have done
in seasons 1 and 2. He believed that he had a really big, important, serious job to do, which was to convey a really big, important, serious message. In season 1, you have the entire refugee drama around his obsession to do with Brexit. In season 2, you have to literally go back in time and stop the Orange Man getting re-elected and inaugurating fascism in the year 2024. Like, this is a man who isn't concerned with telling a story or playing a part in a story or playing a character who's part of a story. This is a man who wants his character to represent his real life, very present, very proximate political beliefs and opinions, to the detriment of the art that he's trying to create.
In accord with Kurtzman, who publicly stated in an interview, didn't he, that it's about having a political platform. And obviously
it is,
this
which
fell into
is
synergy.
And that is the bigger betrayal, I think, or probably about as big as
Absolutely.
a betrayal as you can get, is that Gene Roddenberry was not an apolitical guy. And the usual argument that you're used to hearing people come back on is that Star Trek has always been political because it had gay people on the bridge, it had Russians on the bridge in the height of the Cold War. So that's different. So there's liberal universalism, the thing that underpins Gene Roddenberry, the thing that allows him to read socialists and read Ayn Rand and find good things to say about both, and to present very kind of complex, nuanced, interesting philosophical debates on the screen and allow the audience to see both sides of it and then come away with their own conclusions. There's a huge difference between doing that and taking a specific policy platform and putting that on screen and calling it Star Trek. And I think that was, that was a real shame to watch.
On the nose.
Totally agree.
Way too on the nose.
Could somebody explain to me what Ben said? No.
I was thinking about how eloquently he says everything, and I'm like, in a moment, my brain just doesn't always fire off things that witty. So yeah, kudos to you, Ben.
Here you go, Bishop Moore in the chat. Hello, Bishop. Please check out the new up and coming channel. Sub and help him out.
Yeah, man, he needs all the help.
Never heard of him. Never.
Who's that guy again?
No idea.
No idea.
Final question for Rob then. If this was season 1, where do you think Star Trek would be now?
Look, I've hated Star Trek since 2009, since the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie, which has the dumbest villain in the history of villains. The man who's mad about a situation in the present goes back in time and does nothing to fix that situation, from preventing it from happening. Like, he could have gone to the Romulan homeworld and said, yo, in 100 years, there's going to be a nova that destroys this planet. Why don't you plan for that? He doesn't do that.
True. It's true.
I mean, and I hated that. I was like, are you kidding me? You're going to blow up planets when it's within your, when did you suddenly if you look at that movie, here's everything I hate about modern Star Trek. So in this movie, you have this ship, and let's pretend that Nero goes back in time, and he doesn't know he's back in time, but he meets a Federation ship, right? And he brings the Federation captain over, Captain Rabaul over, and he shows Captain Rabaul Admiral Spock. It's 100 years before Spock would, and the guy goes, and you find somebody in the middle of the universe somewhere. That would be like asking somebody. You find somebody at the Odeon Theater, and you go, hey, do you know my friend who lives in Seattle, Washington? I mean, how would this person know? Have they ever been to Seattle? And the villain is asking, where is the location of Spock? And the captain's like, it's 100 years ago. I don't even know who you're talking about. Why would I know this person? And so our villain, because he doesn't know, gets mad. Why would you think that somebody in the middle of the universe somewhere would just know some random person that you're looking for? You're in the you're in space. You know, you're billions of miles from wherever this person might be, and yet
different time, yeah.
Yeah, but Robert, he didn't know he went back in time because remember he says, "What year is this?" And they
Right.
go, so he didn't. So basically, when he saw he saw that he was part of the Federation. He obviously, you know, swapped.
Sure, he doesn't.
Basically, yeah. So what year is this?
But even then, you know, I don't know him, and then he gets mad, and then he runs him through with a pike
because he's evil.
Killing him. And I'm just like, why don't you keep him around? I mean, it's the whole thing is just
that's
it's
true.
Just,
That's true. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But you know what, mate? I enjoyed that one.
I know. People, I'm in. I could go further, but you asked me.
We could pick it to pieces, but I enjoyed it.
I think though that. Again, the problem with Star Trek, and Alex Kurtzman has flat out said this. He said he's using Star Trek as a platform for his own messaging. You know, the problem that I have with Star Trek is I don't believe it anymore. You know, I used to be able to suspend my disbelief, and I look at like Discovery. I don't believe that anybody on the bridge of the Discovery would ever be on the bridge of the Discovery. None of them feel like they're in and Strange New Worlds feels like
even
I'm watching
Tilly.
Yeah, what about Tilly? She can outrun people.
I mean, the Vegas Star Trek Strange New Worlds is the Vegas show version of Star Trek.
It is, isn't
I
it?
feel like I'm watching it. You know, you've got the hot leading man and his sexually ambiguous group of hotties that he travels around the universe
Stunning
with.
and brave, isn't it?
It's
stunning and brave.
It's just weird. And
there is actually a read of Star Trek Picard, which is the reason that Picard's parents, you know, had all their mental health trouble is that all the therapists fucked off on the Discovery, like however many years before that was. They've just all gone. There's no one left, so now everyone's just rotting with depression.
I really wish, though, that we had great writing. I mean, Star Trek should be the Tiffany standard of science fiction on television.
Agreed.
And now it's turned into
it's
gobbledygook because it's the people.
It's CW.
It's terrible.
Best. Yeah.
And the thing is, science fiction is inherently a literary genre. And unless you have read, like, I wouldn't expect anyone to be a philosopher without reading the basic canon of philosophical texts going back 2,000 years. Just like I wouldn't expect anyone, when Star Trek was first on the air, you had writers like Richard Matheson or Harlan Ellison. These were novelists and playwrights and short story writers, and they'd worked in speculative fiction before, and they had read the canon. I mean, I wish that I felt that anyone who's writing modern Star Trek had ever read one science fiction novel, much less any. You know, it feels like they do a cursory glance on Wikipedia.
They did, and they stole ideas.
Well, that's relatively new. I mean, you know, the Ursula K. Le Guin, even though Steve Shives thinks not, they completely stole that story from Ursula K. Le Guin, and they didn't give her credit.
Well, I mean, Harv Bennett, he went and investigated when he was given the project to make the movies. He went and he investigated, then he watched all the episodes, everything. You know, you think these people did that when they did Discovery? I don't think so.
Sorry, Rob. May I do super chats?
Yeah, go right ahead.
This is directed at you, Princess Fiona for $10. RMB, thank you for your answer. The character drama really would have benefited from a story that made sense. It was, is that shill or it was still Star Wars stupid, but I see you point.
Your point.
I see your point now. It is still a 5-year-old's view of Trek.
Well, I mean, I disagree with that. I mean, Next Generation still had episodes.
The last point I disagree with.
Night Terrors and all that. I mean, it's people. I think people don't remember that about 25% of Next Generation episodes were good to great. Yeah, there's a lot of clunkers in Next Generation, and Star Trek Picard far and away outshines many classic TNG episodes.
I think the big thing, really, I think we can take from this season of Picard is. It is a step in the right direction.
Yes.
And we need to show that momentum. I mean, for all the criticisms that we can hurl at it, and there are quite a lot, I'm hearing it, I'm seeing it, and I agree in a lot of things, you know, a lot of plot contrivances, a lot of things that characters do, like Troy is very weird to me. Jack, I just think he's insufferable. Anyway, but there are a whole bunch of things on there that we can agree could be improved upon. But I don't think if you're just wholesale going to write it off, that you're actually going to bring any new, better Star Trek down the line. You need to sort of kind of go, yes, see what you're doing there. We want really good Star Trek, but can we
Starfleet
just
Academy.
push it a bit more? I mean, that's just ridiculous. But I mean, I guess that's already in the pipeline. But I would say, even if you're not fully supporting or not at all supporting this, you have to at least acknowledge this is better than anything we've had over the last God knows how many years with Discovery and all the rest of that rubbish. So I think it's important that people do engage, and I'm glad to see that Terry Matalas is engaging with people. I hope he does. He isn't blocking people left, right, and centre. That dialogue needs to happen, and Paramount needs to listen, and fans need to engage with him and with them, and try and funnel them to go, look, you're doing good here. More of that, please. Yes, and maybe that will help. I'm just saying a little bit positivity might go a long way.
It's hoping.
Robbie has spoken, everybody.
Wow.
Right.
Shall we move on? Let's move on. Let's go on.
Move along. Oh, jeez.
Moving on.
There we go.
This is what everybody's been waiting
Biggest
for.
fan.
1 hour.
I wasn't waiting for it.
We're a little bit later than normally.
And you know what? Poor
Kennedy
Ben
was a bit of a.
Ben doesn't know what's coming up. Poor Ben. Poor Ben.
Congratulations, Ben.
Good
I
luck.
haven't got a clue. Maybe like the sleepiest, most uninformed news person in the world. Well, outside of Hugh Edwards, maybe.
I'll just produce some.
Or a BBC journalist.
Oh, okay. Let's move on. Lord Cord's news round at the Little Platoon. This is what they want. Let's move on.
Little platoon.
Little Platoon.
I always love how "let's move on" becomes, and we're back on the thing we were just talking about.
Every time.
I wasn't. There is a story behind that. I wasn't going to do the slide, but I
Right.
forgot. So I do apologise. Okay, so this slide is New Picard becomes the first Star Trek series to break into the streaming top 10.
Well, it also broke
Wow.
down the IMAX cinemas computers, didn't they? When they were doing this big season finale event, and apparently there was such a rush to book tickets, it crashed.
I couldn't get them. I was one of those people that was
What?
frustrated.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't get in. I couldn't get. And the funny thing is, I've been reporting. I knew that this was going to happen for a long time, and I was ready. I was all ready to go, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get my. And I had different browsers open. I was on my phone, on my computer. I could never get in.
Wow. That's
Couldn't
crazy.
you pull some favors with Terry?
Well, the funny thing about it is that there is a Paramount. There's an event that Terry has to participate in, a Q&A with the whole cast. He got me in. Terry got me into the premiere for the first 2 episodes. So this is kind of a different.
Are you still
thing.
blocked?
Oh.
I'm blocked by Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus pre-blocked me.
Jeez.
I didn't even know that they had. There was a Star Trek on Paramount Plus Twitter feed. I didn't even know that. When I found out that there is one, I went. No, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're going to have interesting information about upcoming stuff, because I still watch everything. And I clicked on it. You're blocked.
I will say Paramount Plus, if it wasn't for Robert, none of us would be watching Picard.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because, look, I was shocked about the only reason that I sought out Picard season 3 beforehand was, I'll tell you, Doug Drexler showed me pictures of the Enterprise D. I was having lunch with him of the Enterprise D bridge, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. And he goes, well, what is this? Guess what this is? And I go, it's the Enterprise D. Was it pictures from Vegas or pictures from the? He goes, nope. And he told me it was pictures from Picard season 3. I was like, no fucking way. Really? And then I was like, how is this possible? And then it put me on a quest. So what people don't understand is when you work in Hollywood, as long as I have, if you want something, like if you want to read a script or you want to see something that's in production, there are ways to see it, and you just have to know who to call. And because I've been in Star Trek circles for so long, there is ways of getting things. And that's people think that I was like paid, like you're a paid shill. Like there's no one pays you. I don't get paid for my opinion. By the way, if I could get paid for my opinion, bring it on. Write me a check. I'll take the money. I mean, I got a mortgage to pay. If there was such a thing as shill, and I'm not Access Media because I just do what I do on my own. I'm not on anyone's press list or anything like that. If I want to go to a premiere or something, I'll just call somebody up and go, hey, can I get a ticket to this?
Eager folks, Jaden Smith Eyes in the chat. Call Paramount Plus HR and complain about being oppressed.
You know what? That's actually pretty funny. I should call Paramount up. And I should put it on my show. I should do it live and call Paramount live. No, I'm a Paramount Plus subscriber.
Same here.
I pay for their service and I'm blocked by their social media platform.
There you go. Do you want to perhaps just do a quick word? I'll clip this and I will.
Okay. Listen, Paramount Plus. I pay for your service and your social media. Your Star Trek on Paramount Plus Twitter feed has blocked me. I feel oppressed. I feel that because I'm a white cis male, that you are oppressing me, and I'm a customer of yours.
Good God.
Shame!
That was a good speech on the fly.
Shame on you, Paramount Plus.
Well done.
None of us.
Isn't that weird, though? Isn't that weird that there's somebody at Paramount Plus that pre-blocked me? It's just weird having other Star Trek websites calling Paramount and complaining about me. And I was accused. Apparently, I was accused of leaking photos from episode 9 on Reddit. Like, come on. Really? You think that I've kept a secret for 8 months and I'm going to go on Reddit and leak pictures? Why would I do that?
Somebody doesn't like you there.
Just reminds me of that Bill Hicks sketch where he talks about
how Paramount,
how the band would play their records backwards. The kids would play the records backwards. And did you hear that? Satan's Lord, Satan's Lord. It's like yeah, because you really want your audience to kill themselves.
Well, I just don't understand
you need to do better.
I figured that, like, with all the positive free press that you've given them, Robert, that they would be more than happy to be like, "Oh, thank you for liking our show. Look who recommends, and we're not even paying this guy." I don't know.
No. There's somebody on their social media. It's a weird thing.
But as what's happened,
no one hates me more than other Star Trek fans do.
But Robert, as what's happened to Drinker. They're as we said in the last stream, they're actually going to be tapping people like you because they realize that the YouTube critics are untapped. So don't be surprised if they come to you for a review of something.
Oh, and
I'm telling you now, that's what's going to happen.
I think that was a genius move on their part, the people marketing the Pope's Exorcist to get Russell Crowe to go on with the Drinker, because I'll tell you something. I love the Drinker. I've streamed with him. I think his cogent analysis of storytelling is absolutely spot on and worth listening to.
Very good.
People can learn, just like, I've watched Mahler's videos, Red Letter Media's. I found them stumbling on their Star Trek reviews of Generations first. I mean, there's a lot of people that are doing really great cogent analysis of storytelling. And because they love stories.
Yeah, but writing something and criticizing something is two different things, as me and you know, don't we?
Robert, are you available to read a super chat? I think this is aimed at you.
Yes, of course. This is my friend from Norway. Admiral Terrier Tiberius Mork says, currently 122 viewers, also potential buyers of Free Enterprise, the movie with the best William Shatner rap concert ending ever. Well, Terrier, as the man who directed that, I would say you're correct. I wish I could get the movie out again for everybody to see.
Do you know what? I'm just going to say to everyone that Free Enterprise is a really good movie. I remember watching it. I remember you inviting me to the screening, and I love it. So, if it does come out,
hopefully I'll get it out in 4K. Because you know what? Yes. I want to see how many people yell about some of the jokes in the movie. There's a Mia Farrow, Woody Allen joke that'll get me canceled. I look very topical.
Very topical.
People are gonna that have never seen the movie, that would watch the movie, would freak out.
Here you go, folks. Time Profit. Hello, Time. I have seen free enterprise. Was it any good though?
It
Yeah,
is
that's
good, man.
I have a good friend that does not like it at all, and I love the fact that somebody can see it and hate it.
No, seriously, it's a really funny movie, and also the main star. Who'd have thought he was going to be a main star in the sitcom? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So-
Eric McCormack.
Yeah.
I think we
Oh,
were
yeah.
the first. We were the first film that cast him in America. I mean, he'd been cast in things in Canada, but I don't know if he had done anything in America. And then he found out, or it was the last day of production, and I think it was his mother had a heart attack.
Oh wow!
Oh,
And
what?
and I said, you can go, and please, you don't have to stay here, we'll finish later. And he said, nope, my mom would want me to stay here and finish, and he did.
Wow!
And I love Eric McCormack. I mean, the guy was so talented. He was the first person that we auditioned,
Wow!
the very first person, and we're like, you have the part. I mean, there was no reason to look at anyone else. It was great.
Lord, quickly going back to the KK, are you available to read a super chat, please?
Oh, why not? Vil Snoopy for 20 Australian dollars, I'm going to guess.
Yes.
I don't know what that's worth in, like kangaroo skin or whatever you actually normally trade with.
20 Egyptian.
Is it
It's like
real
10
money?
US dollars.
Watching on delay, Kathleen Kennedy reminds me of someone in over their head and has defaulted to what they know, not what they should be doing.
I like
yeah.
that.
Interesting.
I could see that.
Yeah,
That-
that makes sense to me.
I can see. I mean, not to reopen that old conversation, but I think it's important and helpful if we distinguish what we're actually complaining about when we're talking about Kathleen Kennedy, because, of course, she cannot possibly be solely responsible for faults with message, given that faults with message plague every studio. However, Lucasfilm is uniquely dysfunctional in terms of staff turnover and its inability to actually put films on screen with the biggest cinematic franchise in history. That does seem to be much more uniquely to do with her. So, yeah, she might have been quite a good producer, but as a president of Lucasfilm, perhaps not.
I will just say the Lord has spoken, everybody.
Yeah. But I would also add to that the president of Lucasfilm under Disney's auspices. I think both of those things are doubly bad.
Just before we move on from the Picard thing, I did
Yeah.
look up the actual figures. The actual figures are a little bit more depressing than this headline would have you believe.
Oh, okay.
So it's Nielsen, which does streaming by minutes viewed as opposed to share of audience, like it does with sort of cable TV shows and all the rest of that. So Picard comes in at number 9 for original series for the week of March 13th to 19th. That's 310 million minutes of viewing. By contrast, The Mandalorian, at third place in the list, has over 1.12 billion minutes of viewing.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly like quality is translating into a fair share of the audience there.
Was
Big
that a
drop-off.
month ago, though?
I would
March
also
13,
say
yeah.
too, though, that Star Trek has always been niche, whereas Star Wars was populist from the beginning.
I think the mistake was they tried to make Star Trek like Star Wars.
Yep.
And
They've
that
always tried to
Yes.
is
turn
where
it
you
into-
lose people.
JJ.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
Move
Guess
along. Move along. Ooh, hello. Ooh, those chairs are different, aren't they?
The carpet!
Well, Geordie was blind when he was on the original.
Yeah, he was a bit. Yeah.
I can't believe they built the set effectively for just 2 episodes.
That's pretty freaking good.
It's nice though. I mean,
That's
it
where the
was nice
budget
to
went.
see it again. It's nice to see it again. It was nice to see them go in their seats as well. And I mean, they said it was analog. I'm like, what? The ship was analog? What
Yeah,
does
that was
mean?
that was. I think he was just being. It wasn't obviously not analog. I hated that line. I'm like, I wish you didn't use the word analog.
I do quite like. Wasn't it? Oh, who did Battlestar Galactica? Who was on Voyager and left because he wasn't allowed to
Ronald
pursue
D.
his
Ron
ambition?
Moore.
Ron Moore. And Battlestar has finally found its way into the premise of a Star Trek show at last with this one.
Yep. I know.
I do wish that they. I mean, after this, it's not a stretch to ask Riker to have his own show, man. Because I thought Riker was really good in
Well,
this. I
Shaw's
would watch
dead,
it.
so why not?
Yeah, I
he was
know. I would watch it.
And Frakes is having. He's never been better as Riker. He's
Yes.
having a great time.
Yes, he's been.
They all are. All the cast is having a great time.
As soon as Picard walked on the... Sorry, as soon as Patrick Stewart walked on the set...
Well,
You could just tell that
That
it
was old.
arrived, as it were.
Okay.
Apparently, that horseshoe was cast from the original, wasn't it? That's what I learned from Dan from the Space Book yesterday. Okay.
Rob, do you have any idea how much a set like that would have cost?
Oh, I not probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know, but because one of the hard things, it's easier now, but making sets that are curved takes more time. You know, especially if you're making them out of wood. But I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I'm sure that will come up. I should ask Terry that.
I think I've read that it's actually gone to. It's been disassembled and it's been shipped somewhere else, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was a hold and fold set. A lot of the other
it's going to
sets,
be used for something.
Yeah, were destroyed. You know, it used to be that for Star Trek, when it was all made on the Paramount lot, they kept everything because they would recycle it. Corridors, they use it for all the different shows. Like, for instance, the Voyager's warp drive intermix chamber was the same intermix chamber they used for the Enterprise in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
And so there's all those things that they kept reusing, but with Picard and Strange New Worlds and Discovery, Strange New Worlds and Discovery are shot in Canada, and then Picard was shot here locally in LA. So it's kind of
if I remember correctly, there was I think there was a YouTube channel or there was an organization that were raising funds to try and recreate the bridge of the Enterprise D, and I thought this was it.
Yeah, no, there is a group, and they said that no, this wasn't ours. And then also James Cawley, who has the recreation of the original series sets, which by the way are amazing, in Ticonderoga, New York, they're building the Next Generation bridge now. Maybe that's who took it. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought, Christ, they've done a good job of this.
Yeah. Although I bet James Cawley would think it wasn't accurate enough. Because he wants everything absolutely perfect.
Well, it's good that they built it and they didn't do the CGI, because they could have just had the chairs in the middle and everything else could have been CGI. So it's good that they built it.
Yeah, it's that great shot with the techno cranes pulling back.
Yeah.
And you see the lights come on the bridge. It was great.
Oh, yeah. Almost enough to distract me from fireworks in space.
Oh,
those are special fireworks.
Plasma, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So, wonderful sets, totally wonderful.
Yeah, they did a great job, in my opinion.
Oh no.
See, first of all, this website, number 9, give me a break.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Mary Sue. They listed the top 10 captains. So
well, I mean,
Get
the name
in
of the
the
website
bin.
alone. Come on, the Mary Sue.
Shall we do the? We'll do.
Although I love the name
list.
Siobhan.
It is a great name. Siobhan Fahey.
Here you go. So number 10 is Chris Pine.
Oh, Cisco's number 1. I wonder why.
Although I do love Cisco.
I do like Cisco, but he shouldn't be number 1.
No.
Like Space Jesus at number 4, though.
As we said, OG Kirk, number 9.
Sulu?
Oh,
Yeah.
come on. That's not right.
Riker, number 8.
That's crap. Honestly.
Sulu, 7.
Why?
Possibly. Number 6,
Oh, my.
Tryla Scott from the conspiracy episode. She was on for about 4 seconds. It's like, what?
Oh,
That's garbage. If they were going to
dumb.
put anyone there, it should have been Rachel Garrett from the Enterprise C.
Yeah, of course.
Assuming they've watched it. Pike.
I don't
Maybe,
like that
maybe.
show. No, oh, God, no.
No, remember the original Pike from the pilot as well.
What, the one with the
Well,
burnt face?
They wouldn't have seen it.
Okay.
Oh yes, Mikey Spock, number
Get
4.
wrecked.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Get in the bin now.
that's sickening.
War
It's
criminal.
awful.
Don't forget.
Yeah, she is a war criminal. She was the one that caused that war. Stupid cat. Anyway, let's move on. So,
Here you go, folks. In the chat, Tim, I like sending this Hannah Bomb. Space Jesus, number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Darkness,
Ridiculous.
frack that.
Mm-hmm.
she had that Iron Man suit. Do you remember?
Oh,
She was
God.
flying in that episode. That was
And
enough.
then
for me.
she destroyed it for no reason at all.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Janeway, number 3.
I
Maybe.
actually like Janeway.
Is If you like school mistresses, yeah.
Yeah, but like as number 3, come
No,
on,
she doesn't
dude.
deserve
She
to be
wasn't
number
that
3.
great.
No,
Yeah,
no.
there you go.
I
Possibly
like
4 or 5. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed Voyager. Rob,
She can go a little further down the line.
Janeway,
Sorry.
what do you think?
Mrs. Columbo.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, I'm fine. You know, to me, it's interesting because Voyager, I really despised it when it was on, but I've gone back and watched it again, and there's a lot of really good episodes.
Yeah.
of
Some good
Voyager.
episodes, some really good
Same thing
episodes.
with
Yeah.
Enterprise as well, because I used to hate Enterprise. Now I'm watching it again. I'm thinking, do you know what? This is good.
Yeah, there's
I
a
do
lot of
like
good episodes of Enterprise, especially
Yeah.
the 4th season. But there's a couple of really great science fiction episodes. Like I really like Blink of an Eye in Voyager, when the Voyager kind of gets stuck on a planet where time passes much
Yeah,
more
Yeah.
quickly. And then like the one where the holographic doctor is awakened on a planet, like Living Witness is the name of the episode, and it's interesting. But there's some great episodes of Voyager.
I'd just like to say that the Doctor was a really great character, and
Yep.
he was like, he always made me laugh when he was on screen. Really, really good character.
They
Fantastic.
don't even have Captain Archer on there, which is a bit of a disgrace.
They've never
look,
watched Enterprise.
Here you go.
And Twyla Scott, I mean, she was in an episode for not even 5 minutes.
Yeah. Justice for Archer.
Connor. Yeah.
Archer. I do like Archer. He reminded me of Kirk sometimes. He'd really get into the scraps, wouldn't he, old Archer? So, yeah, kind of liked him.
So, number 2, Picard.
Picard.
That should be 3 for me.
Yeah, well, seriously, you can't beat OG Kirk, mate. You can't. Seriously, he's the man.
According to that, Robert Sisko, number 1.
I mean, I love Cisco. To me, James Kirk has to be number 1 because he's the prototype of the whole franchise. I mean,
Yep.
Star Trek
Yes.
is everything else is a derivative. So to me, the original series is Star Trek. Everything else is derivative.
Absolutely. And Sulu
Well said.
and no Archer? Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, and also how can you say someone is a great captain when you've never even seen Twyla Scott in command?
Exactly.
She just met on Ditalix B with a couple of other captains in Picard and talked about a conspiracy for a while. We never saw her make a command decision other than meet with Picard.
But she's the bestest ever.
We did see Sulu though in action, didn't we? I'll fly her apart then, you know.
Yeah,
that
I mean
kind
that
of
was
thing.
cool.
Yeah,
You
it was
know,
cool,
we saw
yeah.
Tom and Voyager
Yeah.
be a captain, but it's
Yeah. And the 6th
clearly-
film, he was really good in the 6th film as well. So
Definitely.
I think it's bizarre how people hate. They hate William Shatner. They hate Kirk these days. It's bizarre.
It's
to me.
weird. Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but it's weird.
Paramount Plus too, but anyway, shall we move on?
it's because of William Shatner, the stuff that he's been saying. He sticks by his guns.
Yep.
That's why they want to lump Kirk down.
And that's why he'll always be the best captain.
Agreed.
We still haven't got off the subject of Star Trek.
I
Where's
know.
Mozart?
Yeah, it's because listen, it's
We've got Robert Meyer Burnett.
Of course.
yeah, shut up, Ian. Okay. This just I saw this just before we came on, so I thought I'd just pop it in. Stuart is basically saying everybody told him during I think was it 86 when they were doing Next Gen. It's going to fail.
87.
Yeah, it's going to fail. You might get half a season. How can you revive an iconic show like Star Trek? You just can't do it. You'll be lucky to make it halfway through the season. So the rest is history, as it were.
But he didn't take it seriously, though. As I said, there's a lot of actors that said he was very pompous and.
Well, he
kind of
hated
tell off
Picard,
fear.
didn't he? He
Yeah.
couldn't wait to deconstruct him and destroy him. I think really that showed. I think it took the rest of the team to turn up to make him actually maybe appreciate it. I don't know. That's what I got from his performance. It just improved from all the clips that I'd seen of season 1 and 2, because I hadn't watched any of that other than the clips. But he looked like he was Picard again.
Well,
No,
he
we're
hardly
talking in
moved,
the
didn't he?
80s.
In the new one, he hardly moved. So
He's
he was
got
sitting
a
down
lot of
most of the
sitting
time.
sitting down. Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
of the time, he was
Well,
sitting
well,
down.
as I said, this is going back to when it was the first season in '87. He didn't think he was going to make it halfway through. I think he was even living out of his suitcase, wasn't he, Robert?
Yeah, they told him that it wouldn't go past 13 episodes.
I remember watching the first episode thinking, this is the acting's so over the top. This is awful. Shall I watch episode 2? I remember the first time I watched the first episode, I was thinking, oh,
Yeah, it's
God,
a little
the
rough.
acting's terrible. Yeah. and then, rest is history. I carried on watching. So
Yeah, it got better with age.
it did.
Absolutely.
It got better. Yeah, it got better.
Which is the episode where, Tasha Yar was fighting?
Code of Honor.
Does that ever
That's
get shown now?
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting about that episode is ultimately that episode's about a matriarchal society, which you don't know when it first starts. You think that Lutan is the man, and then you find, but now it's considered horribly racist.
It was the woman, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Code of Honor, very early on in Next Gen's run.
How many times did she come back, by the way, Natasha?
Well, she came back as Sela, she first came back in Yesterday's Enterprise, and then she came back as Sela, and then she came back as Tasha Yar for All Good Things.
Yes, did you? 3 times then. Well, twice.
Do you think Denise Crosby regrets bailing from season 1?
Yes, she told me that herself.
Wow.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah. But that's in hindsight, I think when she wanted to, it's funny because she actually came to when I was married, she came to my apartment because I'm in Trekkies 2, and it was before I met her, working on the Next Generation Blu-rays, and they came and interviewed me for Trekkies 2, me and my wife, and it was very funny because it was so weird having her in my apartment, in this guest house, and I'm like, wow, it's like I finally had a real Star Trek person is sitting in my house. It was so strange, but she was just amazing. She was so delightful and funny, and she she wasn't getting much to do. And as an actress, she was thinking about her career, and she didn't know that Next Generation was going to last as long as it did. But she was very well liked by the crew and the cast, and that's why they kept bringing her back.
The last thing I saw was she was in Dexter as a murdering nurse. That's the last thing I saw her in. So.
Here you go, folks. Drew Gordon. Her dad was Bing Crosby. Yes,
the crooner.
I think that was that her dad or her grandfather? It might have been. I don't remember. Maybe it was her dad. I don't know.
I think it was her. Was it her grandfather?
Yeah.
Robert, are you available to read a super chat?
Yes. No, I have to go. Terrier says for $100 Norwegian, 100 just a line about the legend that is William Shatner and Captain Kirk. I managed 8 years ago to convince my then wife, who was a lawyer and non-Star Trek fan, to name our son after him. And your ex-wife is delightful. Can I say that? Is that bad to say? I met them both when I went and saw Skyfall they both came down they came from Norway to London to see Skyfall as well.
Wow.
Back in 2012. Yeah.
Good film. But okay, shall we move on? Hopefully there's some different stuff. Bear with me.
Star Trek. What is this?
Oh, this is the one I'm looking forward to.
No. Forget it.
Oh dear.
I ain't watching
It's just
this
rainbow.
rubbish.
Why can't they help themselves with the rainbow
I'm
stuff?
not watching this rubbish.
All about selling the propaganda again.
When I saw who they cast as Spock, I was out. I was like, who the hell is this? He doesn't even look like him, doesn't sound like him. The whole thing is just one big waste of my time.
I just didn't even realize that was Spock at first. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, they killed the best character. Hemmer.
Who?
Is it the Andorran? Is it Andorran?
Oh,
the blue man.
Oh, the blind engineer.
Yeah,
he was
Hemmer,
great.
he was fantastic. They killed him off. God knows why.
Like, sure, that's what they do. They take all the interesting people and they have them off.
Wrong shade of blue, maybe.
Maybe it wasn't blue enough or
That's right.
something. Yeah,
I
wrong
can
shade.
tell by the way Rob is sat there. He loves this program.
Oh yeah, I really, I wanted to. I
Same
wanted
here.
to like it. I really did. I mean, I go into every Star Trek show wanting to like it, and to me, what's really it's like a dumbed down version of the original series, and you can tell.
Yes.
Somebody pointed out, like if you watch on Paramount Plus in America, there's an ad for Strange New Worlds in front of Picard, and the ad is really stupid. One of the characters says, "What's the mission?" and Pike says, "We explore." And then there's a joke. Of course, it's called Star Trek. That's the whole premise of the show. And yet this is the promo you've made where the characters are stating what Star Trek has been about since 1966. And that's how you're supposed to get me to watch. It's not a good show. And the last episode of the first season, the unbelievable bastardization of Balance of Terror, which they never credited the original writer for. They ripped off camera angles, and they never credited the original writer with anything.
Not interested at all.
We've got 2 more seasons.
Good luck.
Oh,
And I bowed after halfway through season 1.
yeah.
Hemmer was keeping me watching it, and they killed him off.
Don't care.
Pike, all he does is he seems just to cook in his quarters for everybody. That's about it, really. Moving on.
Oh, James Bond. What's this?
This week, apparently they are casting for the new Bond. And younger actors don't have the gravitas.
They're going to go for Henry. I reckon.
was gonna
Henry
say-
Cavill needs to be Henry Cavill.
It
Henry
needs
Cavill,
to be
man.
Henry Cavill already. Seriously, he's
They
the
probably
perfect
won't.
Candidate.
Because we want it. That's why they probably won't. They know
Yeah,
that everybody
probably.
wants him to be. But I did not like the Craig Bond at all. And I mean, the first one was good.
Well, certainly not the last one.
The last one was absolute bollocks. Right, it really was absolute shit. The biggest insult to the fans you could ever have is have that film. I will never watch that film ever again.
I know, and I'm a
hated it.
huge Bond fan, and I too hated it.
Hate
Yeah,
it
I don't want to watch it.
with
Hated
a
it.
passion.
I love the fact they kill James Bond, and then at the end credits it says James Bond will return.
Return. Yeah, it's just
Not in
absolute-
my world, it won't. But there you go.
And it was Craig's idea to kill him off. It was his idea, and also
Shut the
original-
actors up. Stop letting them
original-
have power.
The original director left the project, and it's a rumor because
Danny
he didn't
Boyle.
Danny Boyle didn't. He said James Bond should not die, and the producers disagreed with him because Barbara Broccoli fancies Daniel Craig so much that she was willing to. Oh, Daniel, okay, let's have him die. That kind of thing. So there you go. So
Oh,
Okay,
really?
I've got a prediction, and I've said this months ago, and I stand by it. I think
Calcubond.
I think the only way that they can really
Well,
save James Bond is to take it back to its roots.
What,
I
to the
think if you-
60s.
No,
Yes.
it's gone. It's gone.
No, if you take it back to the
No.
60s, reboot it there. That's what I think you should do.
But
And
the
that's
thing
what I
was,
think they
Bond
will
was
do.
already in the 60s. The film
was,
franchise
yeah.
started in 62.
That's what I mean. Take it back to its roots.
Now, what they should do is cast Henry, right, and just say that was that version of James Bond. This is a new version of James Bond. Cast Henry. He's got 5 films in him. I'm telling you, the girls will flock to the cinema to see
Yeah.
Henry, and you got a film. You know what I mean? That's what they should do. But they won't do that. They won't. I'll be surprised if they did do it. But they won't do that because they're all, as Robert says, they're all this agenda stuff is coming flooding into our movies, and it's like there's no exception. Because the last film was absolute bollocks. It really was. There was no reason for that black girl to be in that film. None. If you took her out of it, it would have made no difference whatsoever to the story or anything. It's just, oh, sorry. I had to vent there. I literally had to vent because I hated it so much. But anyway, carry on.
I felt broken
I know
coming
you
out
did.
of the cinema because we've been locked down. I've been looking forward to this because it's
Yeah.
been delayed. I've been
Me too. I was so excited to see it.
I went to see it with my mum, and we came out the cinema both of us depressed. She's like,
Yeah,
what happened?
I just walked out of the cinema completely. I'd been looking forward to this because you go to see a Bond for the, for the ride, effectively,
For the fun.
and for the fun, the action, and you walk out of the cinema, it's like, fuck yeah.
And no disrespect
My
to
head,
anyone, right?
I was
but why
looking
is-
down at the
Why is
floor.
Q gay? Why is Q gay? Why? What was the point in that? Of that?
Why did they
Why
have
was-
to make a point in
Q
making
for
him so?
queer.
Yeah.
Oh God! Oh God!
Although I have
Why?
to say, Ben Whishaw, I think he's a great actor.
Yeah, same
And
here.
I
Agreed.
liked his take. I like his take on Q. Like when we first meet him in what is it, Skyfall?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought I love their when they meet in the museum and the conversation they have. I think he's great as Q.
No, I think
Underutilized though. The film, the main problem with the Craig Bond films, apart from the fact that they killed him off, which they shouldn't have done,
No.
is that it's a series of films that's so afraid to be a Bond series
Yeah.
of films. I mean, it so painfully wishes that it were the Bourne legacy.
Oh,
that
yeah.
it loses the charm that James Bond has always had. Q is a brilliant character to have when you utilize him properly because the Bond films have always indulged in slightly wacky, slightly cheesy, quirky, zany use of technology to make their own distinctive mark.
Take
It's part
it
of
back to
Bond
the
aesthetic.
60s.
No, I
Take it
don't
back
think
to the
you don't
60s.
need to take it back to the 60s, but you can bring back some of the storytelling
Sure.
devices and the aesthetic style of the 60s, the way in which they are quite proudly slightly campy and cheesy. That Bond is not supposed to be this uber serious, shaky cam, gritty, like muscle bound hunk who goes around punching everyone in the most violent possible ways. He's supposed to have style and panache. He's supposed to have clever little devices. He's supposed to have a really cool, very old fashioned car which looks amazing and has machine guns in the headlights. That's what James
Yeah.
Bond is.
Absolutely.
It's not Jason Bourne. It should never
Other
have
than
been.
Casino Royale, I really didn't like any of the other four Craig Bond films too much at all because they're so dour.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
it's like, where's the joie de vivre? Bond liked being Bond, you know, but in the Craig movies, he doesn't.
I can't.
GoldenEye struck the right balance. I think that's where they want to go.
How many times could James Bond go to a girl and the girl goes, "Oh, so you think we're going to make love?" and then walks away? Happened 4 times in the Craig one.
Well, as long as
You
it
think
was
they're telling
Anna
us the-
de
you think
Anus
they're
every
telling us the
time, I'd be
point,
happy
right?
with that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Anna de Anus, definitely.
I mean, it was dealt with perfectly when M said, "You're a dinosaur." That's fine.
That was
Let him
the
be
best.
a dinosaur.
That was you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur
yeah.
product of
Oh,
the Cold War. You know what?
Princess
He
Fiona
should have
Thug
put her to
Bomb.
bed right then and there.
Exactly.
He wouldn't be afraid of Dame Judy. He would have shown her what's up. At about 45 degrees, he would have given her the old
Hot
British
mama.
end.
But you
She
know
would've
what, right? What
She
was
would have been
odd
a great little bounce. Come on. It would've
What
been-
was odd about that was that she said that, right? And then they went back on it because Moneypenny ended up fancying the Perez Brosnan character. She starts off in the first movie when what's his name? He played James Bond first, telling him to get lost. You don't think blah blah blah. And then in the other movie, she ends up fancying him. So I don't understand the point of it. I really don't. So I don't know. It's
I
really
mean, you
weird.
gotta not like a Bond franchise when they go into the snow and Bond doesn't ski,
Yeah,
which
I
is
know,
what they
I
did
know, I
in
know.
Spectre.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, are
Yeah,
you
I
kidding
know.
me?
Yeah.
Bond doesn't
Yeah.
go skiing? Come
Yeah.
on. It's 'cause
Roger
kids-
Moore couldn't ski.
But
Yeah,
it- but
he
it-
was-
I
but-
love me. Look
But
around.
at least they had the best ski sequence in
Yes.
For Your Eyes Only. There's an incredible ski sequence
Yeah.
in the beginning of
Spy Love Me.
Um,
Yeah, Spy Love Me.
Rob,
Fantastic.
where did Bond lose his way?
You know
Was it
what?
the second one.
I think Bond lost his
Quantum.
way when Bond used to. Well, this is a long time ago. In the '60s, the Bond films were trend setters. In the '70s, they were following trends, martial arts trends
Yeah.
in Mouth Golden Gun,
Mhm.
Yeah.
blaxploitation movies in Live and Let Die, and then Bond, kind of in the '80s, just became an action franchise. But like one of you said, they desperately wanted to be the Bourne. I mean, the Jason Bourne movies and now the Mission Impossible movies have out-Bonded Bond.
They have, yeah.
Agreed.
And I think as well, one of the big damaging things to Bond was the Austin Powers movies as well.
Yep.
I don't think we should forget that because I think that made it
Yeah,
all
baby.
too campy and it made people think about Bond being outdated and campy. so they went all uber gritty and super serious, and I think
Yeah.
that.
But then
I
you've
think
got
you're
the
right.
films like The Kingsman, which come out, which shows that there is
I
still
love
a market
Yes,
for
absolutely.
campy, over-the-top Bond-style humor.
Absolutely.
Bond didn't need to lose its place. It may have lost its confidence, but that's an entirely different
And the
question.
first Kingsman movie is a lot of fun.
Oh, I love
Yeah, I
it.
love it. It's great.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
And I love the last one too.
You know what? I think Kingsman are probably missing a trick because they could give us what Bond should be giving us, which Bond isn't. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The first one was really good. The Casino Royale was really good because it was directed by a veteran director that knew what he was doing, and the action was really good. The story was and Craig wasn't too bad in it. You know,
In Casino Royale, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Casino
Yeah,
Royale.
Martin Campbell directed that,
Martin
who
Campbell,
also
yeah.
directed GoldenEye.
Exactly.
Who brought Pierce. He introduced Pierce Brosnan, and he introduced
Yeah.
Daniel Craig.
I think Quantum of Solace, there's a good movie in there somewhere, but it's
Yep.
the editing that completely, the
You know,
Bourne editing that screwed that up. There is a good film in there somewhere.
I'm so glad you're the only other person I've ever heard say that. I totally agree with you. And the problem is,
It's
the Bourne-
underrated.
the Bourne, I'm a total Quantum of Solace apologist. And I think, like you just said, the Bond movies, in order to cut a movie like Jason Bourne, if you look at the third one, the Bourne Supremacy,
Yeah.
if you look at that movie, as a film editor myself, I marvel at that film because it's so quickly, the cutting is so fast, but
Can't
you
keep up with
never don't know where you are because
Yeah.
it was shot that way. And you can't cut something that quickly unless you actually have the footage to cut. So because with Quantum of Solace, there's all these action set pieces, like that plane piece. It's so quickly cut, you can't enjoy. I mean, Bond action, they would actually have two planes in the frame, and it's cut so fast that you can't enjoy any of it. And I think there is, like you said, a much better movie in Quantum than we get because the fast editing ruins it.
Well, the
And
car
it's not
chase
shot that way.
The car chase in the beginning was a mess. The way they edited the car chase in the beginning,
Oh.
absolutely, you didn't even know what car was hitting what or
No,
where
it
was
was
going.
it was exactly that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But I do love the opening theme song, and no one seems to like it. I love that song.
Another Way to Die, I think.
Yeah, with Alicia
Yeah.
Keys and Jack White.
I
It's
actually liked
dirty
it.
and rude. I think it's great. It's down and dirty, and it's just got that guitar, the da na 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 na, and then
That's
that
good.
Bond
Yeah.
beat. Da-na-na. It's no one likes it. I love that song.
I actually like it. I feel like you do. It's very gritty and it's just very brutal. And
Well, at least
that's
it's
why I
not the
liked it.
Madonna one.
I don't
yeah.
know what's awful.
And the Radiohead song should have been used in
Yes.
Spectre was
Spectre.
fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's a song I can't even listen to. Oh, is the
Brilliant.
writing on the wall? Yes. Okay.
yeah.
I hated that song. I
Hated
hated
it.
that. Yeah.
Sam
Won
Smith.
an Academy Award.
Sam
Yeah.
Smith.
Okay.
I hate that guy.
Shall we leave Bond?
Yes.
Do it.
We're kind of running late, so I'll go through the best stories we've got left. So,
Moving on.
Oh, dear.
Z, do you want to go first on this one?
It's the first MCU big budget movie that's been ratioed on its trailer, isn't it?
What is this
400
movie
and-
even about? I watched the trailer. I'm like, I don't have other than they switch places. What is this movie actually about? Like,
Well,
what is
normies
got
are going to have to
cats.
watch WandaVision and Ms. Marvel to understand who 2/3 of the cast are.
Yeah, it's so
So-
weird.
It's not going to go down very well. Currently, it's at 484 upvotes, 1,000 to 602,000 downvotes. Ooh. This is hitting. This is going to hit
Yowza.
Disney right in the off.
They must have seen this coming, surely.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And
It
it's
looks
interesting as well
rubbish.
because we've passed the point now, I think, where any given Marvel film is guaranteed to at least make some money back on its original budget. I mean, Ant-Man
On
has
this
now sort of crossed the Rubicon where that's concerned. We were talking about this in EFAP yesterday. So, what would be your predictions for how well this film does? And I think the average came out at about somewhere between 300 and 500 million, which, given how much they've spent on it, given how many reshoots they've done, given how much trouble they've had, and given all the marketing stuff, that's not a good response at all. And it might even struggle to hit the upper sort of bracket of that because it's partly due to what I think Z mentioned earlier, which is that, you're going to have to watch some pretty obscure and not very popular Marvel stuff to understand who most of the main characters are. The only character who is kind of recognizable is one that everyone hates because she's the biggest villain in the MCU and she's more evil than Thanos. So, there's not exactly a huge pull about this film. I hope that it will bomb. It should be really good fun though, because we're also going back and redoing 2019. And I missed that. I wasn't on YouTube at the time, and so I'm really glad that we are finally getting another shot at 2019
So,
because I want my go.
Lord, do you think this might be a bit of a misfire then?
Misfire might be an understatement. I mean, I'm hoping for
Misfire.
significant blowback.
New character, Misfire.
I was saying only in the last stream, I was saying if you watch all these trailers, none of them are in peril at all.
Consume.
None of them are in peril. I mean, if you watch a James Bond trailer, James Bond's in peril. You can see the bits where he's going to, you're like, oh, I've got to see the film, see how he gets out of that.
Go for it,
But
Connor.
any of these films, any of these Marvel films starring a female heroine, you don't see them in peril at all.
But it's
in
got
the trailer.
CGI in it. It's got lots of CGI.
There is that you said about
What's
the trailer.
volume?
The trailer is a greatest hits compilation of all the worst hits that Marvel has got. So it's got the bad zany humor, it's got the meta quipping, it's got dodgy looking CGI, or at least inconsistent looking CGI. It's got characters people have never heard of, and it's got one character at least who people really don't like. And it's got a
Generic
profound
soldiers.
lack of excitement or sense of purpose. It's kind of everything modern Marvel is condensed into a 2-minute trailer. It's quite remarkably efficient. Well done to them for that job.
But hey, it's got tentacle cats in it, so
Yay.
yay.
Oh, that's right.
Yay. Tentacle pussy.
Well, at least we're not seeing her feet. So there you go.
Oh,
Don't rule it out.
They'll put a prosthetic, like,
The
extra
real villain.
toe.
Is Nick Samuel L. Jackson doing it for the paycheck?
Oh,
Of
God,
course
yes.
he is.
Oh, he has to be.
Yeah, he has to be.
It
But you know
looks
what,
like
I read the
Sorry,
script for a Secret Invasion, and Secret Invasion's really good.
Oh, good.
Mm.
Ooh,
And he looks like he's great in it.
Cool.
ooh.
There you go. I heard it here first, folks.
Actually, you didn't, because we discussed that on our Monday show.
You heard
a
it
couple
here
of weeks
second,
ago.
folks.
Where because we were going through, there was the article which said that it was I think a misquote, or at least the headline had taken the wrong impression from the quote when Samuel L. Jackson said that there were sort of like political themes and messaging that you can read into the script for this. But if you actually go on to read the quotes, it's not in the sense that we're going to make overt commentary on modern politics. It was more like you can find inspiration for the refugee narrative throughout history. And it's I don't think any of us said that we thought it was going to be good because it's Marvel, and that's a strong bet. But at least it had the potential to be interesting, which is much more than you can say for the Marvels. Like if you read the précis of the plot for the name's gone already. Why the hell? The Secret Invasion, that's the one.
Oh.
The précis for the plot of that. At least you can look at the bare bones of that, and you can say, well, I could do a pretty good job with those ingredients. It could be interesting. I'm pleased to hear that the script sounds like it might actually hold up.
Well, it's got a really interesting science fiction story in it, and it has a very there's an interesting antagonist that has a reason for being an antagonist that's good.
Here's hoping it doesn't have a bait and switch. Here's hoping that script is the last script that you read. It wasn't the first version.
Yeah, well, there's multiple scripts. It looks, judging from the trailers, it looks the same.
Okay.
And what I really liked about it was there's an actual, the villain has it kind of like in Picard season 3, Vadic, the Changeling, has real beef against the Federation. I mean, she was tortured and they used her and her band of the Changelings to engineer a bioweapon to destroy the Borg.
Yeah.
I mean, to destroy the Changelings. So she had a real reason to be upset.
She did indeed.
This film, this film is going to bomb. Is it because of the films that have come before, or
No, it's
the
'cause it will
TV
be
series, or
shit.
just everything?
Well, nobody's interested in these characters at all, as far as I know. I don't, I'm not interested in any of these characters, and I'm definitely not going to go and see this rubbish.
What's funny about what I thought about this trailer was when I watched it, one of the things that I've always loved about a book I've wanted to pick up or a movie I've wanted to see is there's something that's got to be intellectually interesting in some way. Like on a superhero movie, Civil War, I'd read the comics, but knowing that Iron Man and Captain America are pitted against one another, that's interesting. And you want to see what happens, or knowing that Winter Soldier was a conspiracy theory movie or something like that. When I watched this trailer, there was nothing in the trailer that made me say what an interesting premise this movie has. The fact that they switch places when they use their powers, that seems to me a 2-minute gag.
Yeah.
And when I watched this trailer, because I was really curious, I actually liked the first Captain Marvel. I didn't think it was great, but I liked it.
It was okay.
I liked it. It was okay.
It was all right.
And I thought it was interesting. The Skrulls were interesting. I liked Mendelsohn as Talos and stuff, and I didn't hate it. But this film, when the trailer was, I watched the trailer like 3 or 4 times in a row, and I was just perplexed. I'm like, what is this movie about? Like, seriously, there's nothing in it. All the Marvel movies, it had something about them that made me want to see them. There was some reason, like, oh, that's interesting. And as a longtime Marvel comic fan, I'm like, okay. But this had nothing in the trailer. I'm like, I have no sense of what this movie's about or why I should watch it.
Well, it's just promoting.
I'll tell you what it's about.
Women heroines. That's all it is.
It's about Brie Larson's sports bra.
I mean, I can't imagine if you make a movie that makes $1 billion, and Captain Marvel made over $1 billion, and you have to be in a movie with 2 other co-stars, and it was your movie,
and it was renamed. Yeah,
she couldn't be happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't even imagine what it was like. I mean, people said she was difficult on set. That was the word around town, and I don't blame her. I mean, what a step down. Your movie makes $1 billion, and then they throw all these other principal characters in your movie. That's so.
Well, that's because they know she's not popular. Nobody really wants to see her. That's why. So, yeah. I don't see how those other 2 are going to help, because we don't know that the black woman in it. We don't know her character. Do we?
Although in the original Marvel comics, she was the first female Captain Marvel. She was Captain Marvel during the 80s, during Secret Wars. I love that character in the comics. I thought she was awesome. And then, to me, when they went with Carol Danvers as Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel, and then it was weird that because the very first, one of my favorite Marvel comics of all time is Avengers Annual 10. And it was written by Chris Claremont. It was drawn by Michael Golden. And it's the first appearance of Rogue, the X-Men Rogue. And Rogue appears as a part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and steals Carol Danvers' powers and throws her off a bridge. I'm like, why don't they do that?
Won't do that, will they?
No. But it's still a great comic.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on to... Here we go, folks. Let me press some buttons. Here we go.
Elon Musk.
Oh, yes.
Who saw the train crash of Elon Musk being interviewed?
What did he do?
By a BBC reporter.
Yeah, we covered this on Open Bar on Thursday as well, which is so basically Elon Musk sits down with a BBC tech reporter for an extended interview. The journalist was under the impression they only had half an hour for the interview, so he came pre-prepared with a lot of what you might call gotcha questions, having to do with the prevalence of hate speech on Twitter, and Elon Musk being, it's not even just about being Elon Musk, it's just about having a basic level of self-respect and a greater intellect than a newt, because anyone with that can outmaneuver a BBC reporter. Elon Musk said, give me some evidence. Like, can you name me one example of hate speech you've seen on Twitter? And the guy just folded. And then he is attempted to say, well, I've not used that thread in ages because I saw so much hate speech. It's like, okay, but give me an example then. Well, I don't remember any. It's like, well, then why are you bringing this up? That was sort of the headline aspect of it. He went away, the journalist that is, and did a whole thread of stories that his friends in the media had written up about it. So, approving quotes from The Guardian and The Washington Post and The New York Times, missing out the only bit that anyone was actually talking about on Twitter itself, which is that this guy had came along with an attempt to do a sting job on Elon Musk, and it had backfired completely because he's an incompetent journalist.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
What's the name of the guy again, the reporter?
I don't remember. He's a non-entity.
James Clayton.
Yeah.
They tried to double down as well, didn't they, afterwards?
The BBC, though, come on.
I think when the BBC aired the interview, they edited it in
yeah.
their
Of course
favour.
they
And they
did.
got
Of course
called
they
out.
did.
They got called out for it, as
Yeah.
they should be.
it's
You know,
a-
they're supposed to be impartial, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
Not that it has been for a long
partial
time.
for ages, but it's revealing of the BBC institutional mindset and the presumption in favour of censorship by boards of appointed friends. These are people whose job requires that there exists a culture of freedom of speech and expression, and here he is saying that a slightly sexist remark should effectively get you taken off of social media. It's interesting that so many mainstream journalists think in this way. I went to a journalism school, and most of the people that I was coming up with also thought this way. The presumption in favor of censorship, the presumption is against freedom of speech, the want to not cause offense over the want to cause offense in the name of telling the truth. That's an institutional problem, and it's bled through the institutions. And it's not just the BBC. You see much the same mindset present in any given major news organization. I don't mind it when it comes from The Guardian, because The Guardian is quite proudly a left-slanted publication. It doesn't hide that fact. But it's when ostensibly objective news outlets, the BBC being one of them, CNN in the United States, which likes to pretend that it's objective journalism, the New York Times likewise, when these people start coming out and essentially saying, yes, we can find a favorable pressure group or an activist group who tells us that social media is rampant, that means you must clamp down on freedom of speech on your platform, Elon Musk. That's something else. That is the tools of objective journalism and ostensibly objective truth-telling being leveraged against the ordinary person's right to speak things as they see them.
It's not even about freedom of speech at this point, because some people have more freedom of speech than others. That's the problem. And I think that when you get certain activists, certainly trans activists, telling me to blow my brains out, and then they don't get suspended. Yet Graham Linehan made a joke when in response to one of these activists making clearly a joke about, I should go around, effing. No, I can't say it now. But whatever. Anyway, it was a joke, and he got permanently suspended again under this so-called Elon Musk free speech platform. It seems to me that he's cleared house maybe in San Francisco, but he hasn't cleared house everywhere else. And it seems to me to be let's talk their language, a systemic problem. And he really needs to get on top of that, because, again, freedom of speech is one thing, but when you have different standards for different people, that's where the problem lies. At least be consistent across the board and have a very clear, opaque, crystal clear rule system.
Rob, did you see the interview?
I did see the interview, and I kind of felt the same way that you guys did. It's if you don't have, if as a reporter, and I interview a lot of people, and if you interview somebody, you've got to know about them. And this gotcha journalism never works. I mean, Elon Musk, it's very interesting because, this week, Elon Musk, they're potentially launching the biggest rocket ever in human history with his Starship on the top of it.
Yeah, Starship.
And whether you are an Elon Musk fan or not, he's revolutionized electric cars. He's revolutionized space travel for us. He's done so much. And I understand the whole Twitter thing and everybody's, the luster has fallen off Elon Musk. But the idea that a reporter went in to that interview with the express purpose of, I don't know what, but making Elon Musk look bad. And that's kind of what he went in to do.
He did.
That's exactly what he did or tried to do. Yeah.
And I think that what is it with our society that why is it that we have there's such a lack of respect for people in general?
I don't know.
It permeates every facet of our civilization now. And everyone is looking to play that gotcha game. And someone like Elon Musk, at least, I mean, people say, well, he just bought everyone else's companies and all. It's like, so what? I mean, the fact is he's done things that have revolutionized culture. He's at least worth the respect of one reporter who's being given the time to sit down and interview Elon Musk. But instead, he walks in with the express purpose of trying to humiliate him.
Well, all these journalists are doing is trying to get clout. They just want to be talked about. That's their entire MO.
There's a slightly deeper problem. I can't remember if it was Pew or one of the other big research agencies did a social attitude survey a few months ago, polling Americans in particular attitudes toward various things to do with freedom of speech and its relationship with activism, which was the really interesting one, because more Americans in general thought it was important for journalists to be objective than journalists did. In other words, journalists prized objectivity lower than the general population because they prize activism more. There's that bleed of journalism into activism. What you're really doing in the name of telling truth to power is that you're trying to overturn power in the name of a different sort of power. These people see themselves as campaigning tools, first and foremost, and reporters second. And it's an attitude that's come up over a long-ish period of time without a huge amount of central direction either, which is the thing that makes it quite difficult to diagnose and then to counter, because a lot of these people haven't come up from exactly the same places. They've not all read some manuscript or some instruction manual telling them how they must view the world. This is a number of people coming up from a number of different journalism schools and then a number of different schools beneath journalism schools who've all emerged with roughly the same mindset. And that's very, very difficult to counter in a very short space of time. The only real counter to that is if you don't like what you read in the New York Times, you don't buy the New York Times and you go and buy something else which takes you a bit more seriously as the audience.
But in a way, it's also speaking to the same thing that we're getting from television and movie creators. Mm-hmm. You know, like these reporters, they're trying to get clout by being activists. And the question is, how does that, I mean, if you're compromising your characters and your stories, then you're doing more damage than the good you might be doing by seemingly sticking up for whatever voices you believe need to be heard.
Well, trust is you know, through the floor. I mean, when are these people going to realize, if they're journalists, surely they could actually work out that what they're doing is actually doing more harm to them and their reputation.
Question: if this reporter had put Musk in his place, what would have been the end game? What is the objective?
To take him down for the left. Yeah. So somebody else can.
And then what? What is the end game? What's the objective?
The end game is to take down anyone with any semi-conservative views, because it's all about pleasing the left or the left side right now. So because of the fact that Musk tries to be either objective or has a few like semi-conservative views, they're just trying to take him down, and that's what this whole thing is about lately. Well, it's playing to the narrative.
Tremendous amount of reputational damage to Twitter as a company as well, which does immense amounts of damage to Elon Musk's own portfolio because, of course, Twitter's value declines. There's a reason that there's a huge industry of grievance groups, which, with long acronyms, which basically translate as the group paid to find offense somewhere. And lo and behold, whenever they commission a report, yes, indeed, they find a reason to be offended. But they're all generally singing from the same hymn sheet, to use the horrible cliche. And that means that, there's a large number of them focusing on Twitter at the moment. These claims about a rise in hate speech on Twitter are not very easily verifiable, and most of the reports that come out claiming to show these have terrible methodology, but they are all interlinked, and then they feed into the BBC, for example. The BBC repeats them as fact because the BBC has a tremendous bias in favor of experts with acronyms, and then the impression is given overall that Twitter is indeed a cesspit of hate and bigotry, and then the value of Twitter declines. That does financial damage to Musk. It also does damage to Twitter in the sense that it might convince a few people to leave it who might otherwise have stayed. I wouldn't be surprised to go to this journalist's Twitter account, which I haven't done, to find that he's got a Mastodon profile somewhere as well, because a lot of these people are sort of reactionaries of the left. And they will always try and find some new, much more pure and safe haven for their views.
Well, don't forget the conversation's changed. It's not a conversation anymore. It's a diktat, and the diktat is anyone who isn't far left is a Yahtzee. It's transmogrified from being, those right-wing people are bad to the extremes. Spaceship man bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's been odd. I mean, I've been characterized lately by people as a right-wing alt-right extremist, and I'm like, I'm Jewish, man. I don't know where you get that from.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's such a weird. It's so bizarre because, you look at our civilization, Western culture is being dismantled, and it's being dismantled. And if it was being dismantled by somebody who was going to replace it with something better, I'd be like, okay, but no one wants to replace anything.
It's a demoralization campaign.
Yeah,
and it's by the usual suspects, which are the radical Marxists and neo-Marxists and the postmodernists, or the useful idiots.
Well, yeah, and I'm like, communism didn't really work out in the 20th century.
No,
And,
they tried it 60 times.
collectivism,
60 times.
collectivism doesn't work.
Not real
I mean,
communism.
it destroys. I mean, human nature is such that we want. It's funny. I heard this is totally off topic, but I heard a story about it was in the 60s. These people set up this. They went to India and set up a collectivist utopia, and it was working fine until they started to have children. And when they started to have children, all the people that believed in collectivism wanted their kids to excel. And then the whole idea of collectivism went out the window. And
they did that in Israel with the kibbutz. Didn't work. It just doesn't work.
No, because we want to be able to have things of our own, and we want to be able to excel.
And we all form hierarchies naturally. That happens. That's human nature.
We're all going to be poor but happy.
I mean,
I'm poor and miserable. I'd rather be rich and miserable, quite honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Eat the bugs.
Yes.
Eat the bugs. Shall we
Yeah.
move on?
Yes.
Do it.
Funberg.
She's rich and miserable.
How dare you?
How dare you? Yeah. Oh, God. What is this?
Okay, on with the Disney stuff. Here you go. Strange World and Lightyear lost 152 million
Good.
and 106 million, respectively.
Awesome
Lightyear.
news.
I just want
Lightyear,
Disney
believe
to
it.
kiss its ass goodbye at this point. I really, really look forward to that day when the bottom just completely collapses out. From
It's not doing well.
The sooner
I hate
Disney
that
realise
company.
that they shouldn't be making content for everybody, the better.
Well,
'Cause
it's not that they shouldn't
for
be making
nobody.
content for everybody. It's that they're making a point that they're making content for everybody and throwing it in their faces. If they just let it come naturally, like movies like Moana, Lilo and Stitch, stuff like that, okay. But they're literally throwing it into our face with the Little Mermaid with the eyes far apart and stuff. I don't understand. She's not relatable. She's not
It's like a
even,
hammerhead shark.
yeah, she's not even semi-attractive. And
She's not attractive as far as I'm
No.
concerned, and it's just I just think it's horrible that Disney's going back, and it's their intention to try and change history. That's
Yeah,
what they're
but-
trying to do, aren't they? So
It's
By
a
making a
Danish
point of it, though.
mythology. It's Danish.
exactly.
No,
And
I'm talking about history in their terms, like
Oh, yeah,
change.
yeah.
They're trying to apologize. Oh, sorry about all the white people in our movies.
Yeah,
do you know
changing
what I
songs
mean?
and everything. Yeah,
That kind of thing. Yeah. So
Oh, I
Yeah.
mean,
Silly.
which is what I can't stand is the history of art, the history of mankind is bloody, dirty, horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back, how many thousands of years do you want to go back? There's never been a golden age where humans haven't enslaved other humans, where people aren't killing each other.
And the British were the first to put a stop to it, or try to. At least.
Well,
Almost, but not
that's-
quite true. There's one single instance that I've been able to find of prior to this, and this is Solon of Athens at about, was it 1500 BC, I think he was? And the city-state was in complete catastrophe, so they turned to him as like the archon of the city, and he passed a constitution which for the first time stopped Athenians making slaves of other Athenians who were indebted to themselves. Apart from the British Empire going out of its way to abolish slavery, that's the only one I can sort of readily remember. And it didn't go very well because lots of people were very invested in the slave trade at the time. So his
Brazil
own
looking at
apprentice
you.
turned up and offed him, and then slavery is reestablished in Athens again. But, I mean, going back to the prior point, it's all to sort of demonstrate that, yes, slavery is kind of a human universal and has been for ever and still continues to this day.
To this day.
And we don't really say anything about the people currently doing
Yeah.
it, but we do try and apologize for the fact that we tried to stop it.
Yeah,
You
but
went to university, didn't you?
it was stopped globally by Britain. Oh, well, that's what they were attempting. I don't think in Greece they did. But then
Oh,
again,
no,
it wasn't-
that was
it wasn't
just very
proper
much a city-state
communism.
thing.
So yeah,
Well, I mean, it's. I think it's more important that we move forward and build
Yes.
something
Yeah, but we're
new.
going back though. That's the problem.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's what I see happening.
progressives always looking back to look
Why
for
why
things
aren't
to
they
blame.
why aren't they making something new? When they do make something new, is this Strange World? Is that a rip off of something, or is that?
Jules Verne.
Yeah,
Oh,
think
right,
it was-
okay, so it's crazy.
Is that the
right?
one where they made a big deal about it being the first animated game
Yeah,
based in
something
a
like
league or
that.
something?
Yeah, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got Lightyear, which has Lightyear had the lesbian mums kissing, which I think there was a huge moral panic about, and that was entirely overblown. But the Strange World example is a good example of like representation done terribly. I would hazard a guess and say as many gay people like Star Wars as straight people do, and that's because it tells universalist stories.
Well,
most people don't have a problem with seeing gay characters in worlds in which they belong, but when your entire selling point is look, we've got a gay cartoon for the first time, it's like, I'm not straight and I don't give a fuck. I want you to do something that's good. I don't want you to do something that's pandering to a specific section of the balkanized community.
And you're tokenizing them anyway.
Yeah.
By doing that. And it's really interesting. One of the things I've always loved about Star Trek is it's allegorical. And there was a great episode of Next Generation, the 4th season, called The Outcast, and the Enterprise rolls up on a genderless society, and Riker falls in love with a member of this society that has
from the A-Team.
feminine feelings. Soren, the character, and she feels she's a she, I guess she's genderless, and they fall in love. And at the end, it has a really chilling ending. They're like, well, we can re-educate people that feel one way or another. If they feel they are male or female, we can send them basically to a re-education camp. And they do. They send her to a re-education camp, and her feelings for Riker, she's turned back into a genderless person. And that's how the episode ends. And, this was in 1990 or 1991. This was pretty progressive TV. It's also a great allegory, and nobody was like saying, look at how great we are by standing up. They were just telling a great science fiction story.
So everyone blames Star Trek. There we go.
But everyone knew what they were doing, and Star Trek, when Star Trek stealthily put people of color, not just Nichelle Nichols on the bridge, but like in early on episodes, you had Percy Rodriguez playing a Commodore, somebody who outranked Kirk, that put Kirk on trial. Percy Rodriguez was a great, and no one was going in this week's episode of Star Trek. Percy Rodriguez, a handsome, swarthy black man, is starring in the episode. No, they never did that because Star Trek did it under it. It just allowed itself to, at a time when it was hard to do those things. Roddenberry stuck to his guns and did it, but didn't say anything. He just did it. And Star Trek is
Blake 7.
I love Blake 7.
But me too.
There's an interesting show if you watch it now because of its ideas of rebellion and against the state, the totalitarian.
And you had Dana, a black assassin.
We've set him off now.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, the science fiction has always been the place that has been, even though it's written by not necessarily the most progressive people in the world. Science fiction was always a place as a genre where it was forward thinking in terms of humanity and where we're going to be or where we're at. And that's what science fiction, I mean, when Rod Serling was making the Twilight Zone in 59 through 64, network standards and practices, there were things you couldn't talk about on TV. Same with Star Trek. But in the context of a science fiction fantasy format, you weren't necessarily, it's fantasy, man. It's science fiction. So if you want to do an allegory about the Vietnam War, they didn't recognize it as an allegory about the Vietnam War because it had the Klingons on one side and the Federation on the other. So you could get it on television, or Rod Serling could tell a story. Oh no, this is set in the Twilight Zone. So we can, and so network standards and practices are like, oh, okay, we'll let you do this story. But if it was on, say, Peyton Place or Leave It to Beaver, you couldn't do it because network standards and practices wouldn't let you. And that's, I think, the great thing about science fiction as a genre. Same actually is true of horror as well. You can, or fantasy, you can tell allegorical stories, and they're easily more digestible because people don't know what, they don't necessarily take offense.
Lord, are you available to read a super chat, please?
Oh, I suppose so. From Romeo Tango and Wed Zeta for $5.50 New Zealand dollars. Let's admit it, folks. We all get a bit excited when Lord Cord uses words like ostensibly. Great stream, Brown, top-notch panel, and chat.
He went to university, so there you go.
This is a very clever Lord. Okay. We will move.
And finally, ooh.
This is for Rob mainly. Anybody see this?
Wow.
This is in
Beautiful.
Wow.
This is in Denmark. I've been watching this guy make this on Facebook.
Wow.
I think it's a 1/12 scale Eagle transporter.
Where's he going to put it?
Who cares? You got it.
What do you reckon to that, Rob?
Oh my! I have many eagles in the room.
Not
that I'm
that one,
sitting
though.
in now. No, I would love to have that. I mean, clearly one of the greatest fictional spaceships. I mean, for me, it's the Starship Enterprise, probably the Millennium Falcon, and then the Eagle Transporter.
Every 70s and 80s kid had one of these.
Yeah, I
from
had one.
Dinky.
I've got a few. Yeah.
The Dinky Eagles, and they were. I remember the first time I saw a Dinky Eagle, it was $15, and for a toy, I remember I was with my dad. I was like, Dad, my dad's like, I'm not gonna buy you a $15 spaceship. And I'm like, please, no. But I did get it for my birthday.
Oh, cool.
Which color did you get? Which one?
I had the green and white one. I didn't have the
Same
blue
here.
one. We
I
had
had
the
them.
green.
Yeah.
The green. And then, but what happened was when they came out with the Freighter Eagle.
Oh, I love the freighter one.
So the Freighter Eagle was white with the red places with the nuclear. So what I did was I swapped out the carriage, the undercarriage, so I had an all white Eagle.
That was
and then
it.
I had the green.
Yeah,
and
I had
Freighter
that
Eagle.
one. The one you mentioned, I had that one as a kid.
The freighter is my favorite.
The Freighter Eagle,
It's
that was like the
fantastic.
greatest toy ever because it had the rotating drum that held the nuclear waste. That thing
And
was awesome.
magnets.
And Magnus, the winch worked with a it was so great. Did you have the Mattel one? No,
I don't think we got the Mattel one over in Blighty.
That might have been the single greatest toy I had as a child.
Wow.
That Eagle. It came with 3 figures: Dr. Bergman, Dr. Russell, and John Koenig, and it was the greatest thing ever.
Well, even better than Action Man.
Action
we
Man.
didn't-
Excellent.
We didn't have Action Man in the States. And the great thing about Action
G.I.
Man,
Joe.
I found out later that you could buy, like, they had superhero suits that Action Man could use. Or was that Action Man was great? I didn't get an Action Man until I first went to Europe in the late 90s, and they had James Bond Action Mans. They had a Thunderball Action Man. That
Oh
I
my
bought.
gosh.
I was like, I have to get those.
Here you go, folks. Princess Fiona in the chat. I have the Dinky, here you go, Rob, UFO toys.
Those are okay. The Dinky Interceptor and the Dinky Mobile. The Dinky Mobile,
I had those.
it had the flip top roof.
Yeah.
That was like the most powerful toy missile. That thing could fly across the whole room.
Oh, just going back by talking about Action Man. Did you know they used Action Men in Spy Love Me?
Yeah.
So do you remember the bit where he has the girl and Strongberg is in this little boat thing and it shoots out of
Oh yeah,
her and
it
the thing?
shoots out out of the
There
thing.
were
Yeah,
Action Men in that,
I didn't know
in that
that.
model. Yeah, they used the Action Men. So
Oh,
there you
that's
go.
cool.
Yeah, there you go.
I've been thinking we need to do a Jerry Anderson show at some point, Rob.
Oh my God, I would. UFO
At
is
some
one of my
point.
favorite things in the
Yeah.
world. I mean, the thing about Space 1999 is that there's such a difference between seasons 1 and 2 of that show.
Yeah.
Because
It's a
Fred
good-
Freiberger, who produced the 3rd season of Star Trek, came over and produced the.
You Americans spoil it.
Yeah, it was not. I mean, there was a couple
Your
of
fault.
stuff, but the first season of Space 1999 is really weird and strange, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I love all Derek Meddings, all the design work. and It's just
Well, the Americans introduced Meyer. Wasn't the Americans
Yep.
responsible for Meyer? Yeah.
Yep.
Remember that
Yep. I
one.
mean, Catherine Schell, she was a Bond girl. She was in.
was, yep.
She was in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
She was. And so was Joanna Lumley.
Yep. Yes, she was.
Yeah.
I think that is it, folks. Rob, if you fancy doing a Jerry Anderson show, maybe we should produce one.
I would love to. I mean, I'm a
think
huge
it's long
all the way
overdue.
back to Supercar and Fireball XL5 and Stingray.
Yeah.
And
Stingray.
I
I spent way too much money on the Japanese import box set of Thunderbirds and UFO because only the Japanese could release. They had a window, like an exclusive window for like 3 years before. Now you can get they made a beautiful UFO box set from the UK.
Wow.
But those restorations of Space 1999 and Thunderbirds and UFO are incredible. They're beautiful. They did a great job. Same with The Prisoner.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
Yeah.
And on that bombshell,
FAB.
I think that's it,
Be-
folks. Please consider donating to the channel. Links in the description, pin message, etc., etc. A few of you have. I appreciate that. As I said, apologies for StreamYard's going tits up at the beginning.
Oh no, he's
It
dead.
put me on a causality loop where I was just on a loop going round and round the intro music. So
He's dead.
You were lost. You were lost in space.
And it wasn't. It was a meaningless death.
It was. It's not fair. Bring him back. Bring him back. Yeah.
That's it, folks. Chat, you are wonderful, but as I always say, you know that already. Great interaction, boys and girls. Thank you so much.
Lord
Thanks for
can go
having
to sleep. He can go to sleep now.
The Lord has taken one for the team, folks. I will thank the guests. Probby, cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, Ian.
Why, thank you.
Rennie, good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be back, Brown, and enjoy streaming with all of you guys as normal. And it was very nice to meet you, Robert.
It was nice to
very
meet
much.
you too.
Thank you.
Are you here in America? Because you have
Yes,
an
I
American. Oh, where in America do you hail from?
Texas. My husband is actually Australian, but yeah,
Are you
we're
married?
both in Texas. Very funny, Brown. But yeah, we both admire your work and really appreciate everything that you've said about Picard, and you've inspired us to watch it. But we just didn't know that whole end game yet, so that's why we were a little
He
scared.
inspired everybody to watch it, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, someone called me the Paul Revere of Picard season 3, and I'm like, I don't know if that was such a good thing. But I mean, I just want good Star Trek, you know, and I really, I've really enjoyed this season of Picard, and also because, look, at the end of the day, I felt it was about the characters. And I felt that Patrick Stewart was finally acting like Jean-Luc Picard, and Frakes has never been better. I think Gates McFadden is great, and I loved Shaw, and I loved Worf. I think it was so funny. It was so maddening. I couldn't say anything to anybody, but when they're like, "I'm not going to watch this because Worf's a pacifist," and I'm like, "No, he's not."
Quite liking Raffi now, but there you go.
Yeah, they which I thought she was an irredeemably bad character and horribly written.
She's warming to me.
No, she still needs to get her head cut off. Yes, definitely.
I liked her interaction with Worf, and I think to get these actors to come back. I mean, Gates McFadden's 74, Brent Spiner's 74, both Dorn and Frakes are 70. LeVar Burton is 66, the youngest, and Patrick Stewart is in his 80s. And to get these characters to come back and to make people love them again, all over again, is I think a feat, you know. And while we're peddling youth to everybody, it shows that you can still tell relevant, good stories with actors that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s.
They should have done it 10 years ago, but that's another discussion. Z, thank you, my friend.
Always a pleasure, sir. Looking forward to the final Mandalorian stream next
on Wednesday. You can shut down for the evening now. So
shutting down, sir.
And he's taken one for the team, everybody. The wonderful Lord, everybody. Cheers, Lord.
Thank you as ever.
You're on tomorrow, yeah?
Tomorrow.
Excellent.
Oh God, yeah, I've got another one tomorrow. God, yeah. Okay.
Oh no!
Yeah, my show's on tomorrow.
Go to sleep.
Mandalorian on Wednesday.
You need to go to sleep, mate.
I've got loads of video work to do. I can't
go
afford
to sleep, Lord. And last but by no means least, a genuine pleasure to have this guy on. Probably 2 years. 2 years. We should have done this 2 years ago, but here we go, everybody. Robert Meyer Burnett.
It was good to stream with you one more time. You know, back in the day, the pandemic. It was good. This was fun. I mean, I love talking about Picard. Yes. You know.
Yeah, man. You're cool. What can I say?
Well, if I come to the UK, we'll maybe have to stream in together somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Did you say you're going to Denmark?
No, I've been to Denmark. I was in Denmark. I wasn't planning on that, but if this thing works out, I'm going to Spain in the first week of June. Nice. And so I'd like to then try on a work related thing, and then I would travel up. I want to go to France and Germany and the UK and to see Terrier in Norway.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
You should definitely give Ian a shout when you get into London.
It's always good when you can go work somewhere in Europe and someone else is paying for it.
Excellent.
So,
Oh yeah.
so
Excellent.
let's. And I lived in Australia for a year, so man, I love Sydney. I'll tell you that.
Oh, my husband just gave you a thumbs up.
Oh, tell him I spent 3 weeks in Tamworth, the country music capital of Australia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he knows where that is too. He's from Victoria, but he's lived in Sydney and New South Wales for a little bit. So
Man, do that is one party town, man. and I heard that there's a band that I had never heard of ever in my life. I knew the lead singer, but I did not know that if you're in a bar in Australia and you put on a band called Cold Chisel, that's fronted by Jimmy Barnes. I'd only known Jimmy Barnes from singing from like the Lost Boys soundtrack. I didn't realize that everybody in the bar just starts singing.
oh wow.
And I was at Bondi Beach with a friend. He goes, "Watch this." I was just there. When I first got there, he goes, "Watch this." And he asked me if I go, "What is Cold Chisel? Is it a drink? Is it a beer? What is it?" And he goes, "Watch." And he went and put on a Cold Chisel song, and the entire bar erupted and sang this song. And that's when I first heard of Cold Chisel. There's my Australia story.
That's really cool, man.
I can vouch for that. That's an actual thing, and it's quite often the last song that's played in any club or any pub, and everyone sings along with it, and they know there's no more drinks. That's it. It's finished. You're out. See you later.
Bob's your uncle.
That's right.
As much as I could listen to Robert talking all night, I think that's it, folks. We are back on Wednesday, where we are doing the last Mandalorian roast. Could be interesting. So I think that's it, folks. Again, apologies for the temporal distortion at the beginning.
The brownout.
Yes, brown down. It's going to be very embarrassing watching it back. I don't
Brown
watch
went
it.
down.
Yeah.
All the way to Browntown.
I think that's it, folks. If we don't see you Wednesday, we will see you next week. Have a great week. Take care, everybody. We're out of here. Adios.
Bye.
Timing.
Timing.